Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Pro Wrestling World Talks with Dan and Mac.
Buddy, welcome to PWW Talks. I am your host, Dan, joined by Mac, my bestie, and joined by our super producer, Dave, and one of my favorite guests of the program that's on here, and the fact that I can call him a friend is still amazing to me, and something that I would have pinched myself at 25 years ago, because I would have been like, really? You know me by a first name? How did this work? Scott Hudson, everybody. Welcome back, Scott. Thank you again.
Thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
And tonight we are talking about, perhaps, I guess you could say in the professional wrestling industry, the night of the New Testament, or was it the second New Testament, considering the fact of that about 2 or 3 weeks before was Stone Cold Steve Austin's Austin 316 promo. And we are talking about tonight, Bash at the Beach 1996, an event that I am going to be asking questions later on towards Scott about a little factor fiction to see if exactly, and that of course will be happening around the time of the main event, where we were talking be more in depth, more or less like talking to, I feel like I'll be talking to someone about that was there for the Kennedy assassination in Dallas in '63.
Oh my God.
I was the one holding the umbrella.
Which side was Lee Harvey Oswald on? What side was Lee Harvey Oswald on?
What side was he on? If only JFK had that type of warning. I'm just like, what side is he on? What side of the book depository? Wait, what? Jackie, what are they talking about?
Turned his head. So Mac must have been the babushka lady then.
I can't even be bad.
You can't see that.
That's even before my time. That literally was 10 months before I was born. So I'm not, I'm old, but I'm not that old.
That's still one of those things where it's just like one day of the week I'll be like, oh, it's a single shooter. And then the next day I'll be like, I don't know. Like, I don't know. We did put a man on the moon that decade. Did we?
Yikes.
Filmed in front of a live studio audience.
Stanley Kubrick used B footage from...
And I've watched a lot of movies from that decade. I don't think they can fake that. It's some pretty bad effects. They need some CGI for that bitch.
Yeah, that's that. Whenever I hear those the moon landing was fake, guys, the first thing I say is which one? We went 7 times, and they'll point to the first one as that was fake. Okay, I'll give you that. Say it was. What about the other 6? But the thing that always gets me is you say we didn't have the technology to fake it, but we did have the technology to make it look that real. We still don't have the technology to make it look that real. So
that's true.
I don't understand that. And that usually just gets me called names and the conversation.
But that's everything in the internet community, I think, these days. If you have an opinion about anything these days,
dude,
it's
the moon landing's
you guys are too young, but you should have grown up in that era. I mean, anybody that tells you they wheeled the television into the classroom, that didn't happen because it was like at 8:00 at night. No, nobody was in school at 8:00 at night, but I was certainly alive. I was 4.5 years old, but even I knew what was going on because you couldn't miss it. And just the thought of going to outer space, and it was all over the news. And then, man, I got into that stuff. Still to this day. This is getting way far afield from Bash at the Beach, but a nice segue, if you'll give me a second, is when I was working for the feds, I was, the boss, and we had a bosses conference, and every year we did it. And one year we did it in Orlando, I think. And as the one day that we had off during the week, they took us on like an exclusive, super top secret, because that was our clearance tour of Cape Canaveral. Of the vehicular assembly building, the big building that you think of when you think of NASA at the Cape and all that. We got to see everything. God, I was just in heaven. And Cape Canaveral is just down the first coast from Daytona Beach, where Bash at the Beach 1996 took place.
I was going to ask you, did they ask you to be a part of the drill team for the giant asteroid?
No.
Be close, man. Oh, God. Just Aerosmith.
I will say this. And I can't go into it, obviously, because we were sworn to secrecy. But they told us that wasn't like super secret stuff that's going to make a difference. But it was stuff like, you can't talk about this. But it was just amazing. I wish for everybody to get even the touristy tour of that place. It's if you're a space geek like I am, it's worth the drive, and I don't even know if it costs anything. I mean, it's the government; it's probably free. But God, that should be now. And we were there when a SpaceX rocket launched. At night, we were sitting out on the beach. We had ordered food and hung out on the beach and watched them launch the rocket from the Cape. It was amazing.
I've always been interested in like space and space flight and that type of stuff too, but it's also very scary because it's like there's been far more mishaps, I feel like, lately than there has been like actual ones that made it, especially with like Columbia, even though it was like 20 years ago. But still, some of the other incidents that have happened where you're just like, oh, this is. But now more private enterprise is doing it, because you got SpaceX and then you got Jeff Bezos trying to make his claim. It literally is.
Japanese have been doing some stuff too.
It literally is just like a billionaire dick growing contest between each of them. Of just like, I'm going to get my rocket there faster. No me.
I drove to Fort Worth, Texas, from out here in the Lake Country of Georgia 2 weeks ago, week and a half ago. I had to do my food show, the Zest Fest, which is the only thing I really do anymore. It was so much fun. But this year I figured I'd drive. It's like 13 hours, so I broke it up. Long story short, I listened to Neil deGrasse Tyson's new book during the drive, and it's called Take Me to Your Leader, and it's about what would we really do if aliens came to Earth and said, take me to your leader. What would we do? Where would we take them? And it was.
I don't want them to come here in the current set of 4 years.
It was. He's a funny guy, so it wasn't some kind of serious academic thing. But anyway, in the book, he said, picture the globe that you had in school. Everybody in the classroom had a globe in it. It's just big. It's 18 inches in diameter or whatever. He said, when you see these outer space trips that Blue Origin or SpaceX do with celebrities and stuff, and they claim they went to outer space, if you laid a dime on the school globe, they didn't get to the top of the dime.
Of course
not. They just don't go anywhere. And the moon is, 300 yards away or whatever.
Like that.
So anytime I see all this, it's just a show. They're barely higher than airplanes. Remember that dude a few years ago that took a hot air balloon
and I don't mean the U.S. Army thing. So what are they doing? Like Halo flights? Okay. Sorry. Halo flights there's a type of aircraft that they do to put soldiers and stuff very high in the atmosphere, much higher than most planes get, so they can do halo drops, so people don't see them coming in, and they can fuck around and mess around and avoid radar detection. So I was thinking what you were describing sound like maybe Halo flights.
No, like the Vomit Comet, those kind of things.
Yeah. Sorry.
No, that's serious business. I don't want any part of that. But this guy took a hot air balloon out into what we consider outer space, where the sky is black. And he had the outfit on and the just jumped out and parachuted back down to Earth from outer space. And he had a camera on him and everything. That was a cool thing. I enjoyed that. He's lost his mind, but
You okay there, Dan?
I'm fine.
anyway, God, you me talking about space.
I was doing research. No, I was doing research.
You're not currently watching the show, are you? Getting caught up. It was almost Great American Bash. I almost got him messed up. I had him told the wrong show.
No, I wasn't kind of caught. No, I brought up the because I know this show pretty much by heart because it's just like a VHS release that pretty much I played on loop, but more or less too. It was like more of the last 40 minutes. It was, to be honest, though, going back and looking at it, perhaps one of the best shows I think that they had put on, other than the main event, because everybody looks at the main event as literally like just like,
ain't bad. It's old school.
What the main? No, I'm just saying everybody looks at the main event of like nothing happened before the show. Like before the main event, nothing else happened. It's like no, there was plenty that happened.
Yeah,
it was a good card, like a really good show. And then, but everybody kind of it gets glossed over, of course, because it's just like the ending, which again you can make the argument. And Kevin Sullivan did mention this in a U Shoot a couple of years ago with Sean Oliver. He did say, yeah, it was like the equivalent of the Kennedy assassination. Of course, we'll get that into in depth at the end when I will ask Scott some fact or fiction questions because he was there. He was in the building the night that this happened, July 7th of 1996, which took place from Daytona Beach, which
it's almost
again,
30 years ago now.
Almost 30 years. We're closing in on that. And actually, I put on an NWO shirt to commemorate it. I was wearing an Austin 316 shirt today, too. So it's weird. But I was like, I got to put an NWO shirt on because I'd feel like a dope if I didn't. Because of the fact we are talking about one of the most historical events in the history of the industry. This is a landmark night. I know Tony Schiavone used to overuse that so much on Nitro. And Scott, you had to have just every night, half the time, just look at him and say, Tony, you said that 7 times in the last 8 months.
The greatest night in the history of our sport.
You just sit there, you're like, shut up.
It's almost like it's not as bad as Michael Cole anytime a Big Show match is on. He's so big. His hand is huge. His feet is huge. His head is huge. He's massive. His back is huge. He's big. I'm like, the only thing he hasn't talked about is his dick, which I'm assuming he's probably huge.
But every night, it was like, this is the biggest night in the history of our sport. It's like, no, it isn't. No.
Well, on this particular night, it kind of is.
It would have been right that night. The old, broken clock being right twice a day.
Exactly.
If you say every night is the biggest night in the sport, there's at least one time you should get it right.
This would have been it.
There was a couple of year window that, he was able to say that. And there was a couple of year window that he said that too much, where you're just like, no. The decline's already happened, Tony. You know that. You should know this by now because you're probably talking about it with Scott, Mark Madden, and a few others, like beyond the show, of being like, this is the shits. What the hell's going on?
I've listened to some of his old podcasts when he does his actual opinions, like, oh, this sucked. Especially when the fucking Yeti, as he described it.
Yeti!
The fucking Yeti!
We are still, by the way, from 9 months. That happened 9 months before this show. Like this happened within like 9 months before this show. The Yeti happened.
I think that was Sick Boy under all that shit.
No, it was actually Reese.
It was Ron Reese.
It was Ron Reese.
I was close. I had the right faction.
Yeah,
whose other highlight?
He was a flocker.
Whose other highlight was getting jackhammered by Goldberg that night that he fought Raven in Denver. Like that was probably one of the loudest reactions I've ever seen as far as Pops is concerned. Was the night that Goldberg beat Raven for the U.S. Championship. That place was literally ready to explode. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, 2 months later when he beat Hogan, much bigger deal. But this show, it's the biggest night in the history of our. Yes, thanks, Tony. Thank you. But July 7th, 1996, Scott, this show started, I think the opening bell time at 7 p.m. I need to ask, as at 6:05 Turner time, what was your opinion on who the third man was going to be?
From being there, I had no idea.
Okay.
I'm sorry?
You didn't have a theory, a guess?
Well, they hadn't told me because I wasn't doing anything. I was just there to observe and, learn my craft. All I was doing at the time was like pro and international stuff. So I was just supposed to watch, and that's all I was doing. And I was really paying more attention to the announcing and learning how to do that than even the booking or anything. But I saw the format, and the format didn't have it on there. Everybody there had an idea, and so you're looking in. I don't know if you've ever been to the Ocean Center, but it's an old building, and so everybody's looking in these little catacombs, and who's here? Who's in that room? Was Roddy Piper here? Is Ultimate Warrior here? Who's the third man? Who's it going to be?
Nobody. That people probably suspect it was probably Luger or Sting. That's
Push comes to shove, when we would think it through, it was like, well, it's not going to be Jake. It's not going to be Warrior. It's not going to be Piper. It's not going to be anybody like that. It's not going to be Shawn. So it's going to be Luger. It's going to be Sting. Somebody's trying. So that we kind of made up our mind that's what it was. But we didn't know.
Was the Bret Hart theory out there? Because he was not under contract at this time.
Sure. His name was, you name it. And they're Gene Kiniski. They're all, everybody's name was
Gene Kiniski is the third man.
Boy,
Bret Hart appears the third man.
Bret Hart making that switch, I think, would have been equally as big as Hogan doing it, just because of the fact of the shock value. Yeah. And then on top of that, too, it would have been somebody that had just really separated himself from WWE around the same time that Hall and Nash did. So that could have worked. But
it would have been big, but I don't think it would have been Hogan big.
It wouldn't have been Hogan big.
It wouldn't have been Hogan big.
It wouldn't have been Hogan big. Hogan jumping was obviously, I think, the literal the jumping off point of just like, okay, yeah, this is the minute Hogan did it. It's just like, okay, this just became big time. Like it literally within seconds.
I'll tell you something I remember, because where I went to school at, big WCW, a big WCW crowd there in Southern Missouri. But anyway, before Hulk Hogan became the NWO, when people talked about Hulk Hogan in my class as a kid, they were always saying he's on steroids, he's a has-been, nobody cares anymore. And then suddenly, everybody went from, oh my God, this is awesome.
Yeah,
this is cool. It was like going to school the next week and discovering that Hogan is cool again. It was like flipping a coin.
It was literally, I felt like the moment that he came out and dropped the leg, it was literally the moment of Dorothy coming out in color in Wizard of Oz, of just like, we're not in Kansas anymore, because it hasn't been the same since.
We're in Florida now, bitches.
Why are there
300
men? Gene Kiniski was an old reference. Oh my God. Holy moly. Yeah. Judy Garland.
Ironically, I also watched Rocky 3 this week, right before I watched that show. So I saw the other side of Hogan, right when he's just getting ready to be big, dropping a leg on Stallone. It's the first time I'd seen it.
It was the Johnny Carson appearance that really put it over the top, because Carson, he had Stallone on talking about
knocking
Rocky
out that
3.
one Richard Belzer from Law and Order.
Oh, that was the night before. That was the night before WrestleMania 1, or a couple nights before. That was in I think, because he did Saturday Night Live, and then I think it was the Hot Properties incident, and then Belzer named his little. He bought like a little chateau in France, and he actually named Les Hogan with the money that he was able to get from Hogan out of that deal. Probably it's just just that whole thing. When I heard that story, I'm just like, good for him. And I loved him on SVU too. That was hilarious.
And I think that was okay, I'm about to get in Law and Order history. Never mind.
Yeah, no, he was from Homicide.
Yeah.
I knew what you were going to say. Which, another great show, but by Dick Wolf.
Just nepotism.
Yep. and I'm sure that other people were just like, "What's Homicide? What was that?" That was
Life on the streets, bitches. It was like Law and Order, it was Law and Order, but with grit. Before Shield came and made real grit.
Well, and then nobody talks about it because The Wire came out afterwards, and it's like, well, that's the Baltimore show. We don't need to talk about the Homicide. It's like, no, you need to bring up Homicide. And I'm sure.
I think we're killing Scott Hudson over there.
He's just like, what are you talking
about? This is right in my wheelhouse. I remember all this.
Okay,
but
good.
I agree. A Homicide was of its time. That's
it was.
I remember, learning the difference in school, what's timely and what's timeless. That was a very timely show. It doesn't hold up, but now it's, it's almost like watching, in the 1990s, it's like watching Andy Griffith. Oh, that was a different time. And now it's about the same.
It's still one of those evolutionary steps. You don't get The Wire or The Shield without it.
Absolutely. Absolutely right.
NYPD Blue is another show that you can kind of go back and look at.
Yeah.
And that's aged, I think, extremely well.
Yeah, NYPD Blue is probably one of the best aging of the old cop shows.
Yeah, because it's perfect. Like, the casting is perfect. The writing was really good. The stuff that it touched upon is still stuff that's talked about now. It's carried over. So it's just it's one of those shows that's just aged very well, where a lot of that stuff hasn't. Like, I don't think people can watch Kojak now or like Beretta and sit there and be like, oh yeah, hey, that's how it is. No, it isn't. No.
Or that one starring Shatner, whichever one that was.
Oh, TJ Hooker.
Yeah, that's the one.
Stop, please.
I kind of
pull your car over.
Shatner, so I can watch that show because
I forgot about TJ Hooker.
Oh
boy.
It was the other great show.
You're under arrest. Votes.
I hate to say this, but sometimes I think I like Shatner more in Boston Legal than did Star Trek. But anyway.
Danny Crane.
Yeah.
He was great. Yeah. He was great as Denny Crane. That was an incredible show. That show doesn't get enough love.
If a wrestler was wanting to learn how to present himself, I'd have them say, look at Denny Crane and tell me what he's doing right. And you're like, that's how you can build a character, just like that.
Yes,
so
exactly.
Simple. It works.
You know who's Denny Crane, and hear me out on this, is Danhausen. He lives in his own little world.
Yes.
And he doesn't let anything penetrate it, and he just exists. And
just needs to start walking out and going,
Danhausen wreaks chaos everywhere he goes.
One of the biggest fumbles I have ever seen is when Tony got him at first, and he did nothing with him.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then the instant that WWE got him, it's just like, they're going to make him the biggest star in the company, and he's not going to have to take like 4 bumps a year. Like, he's set for life. Yeah, no, he's not going to have to do anything, and automatically he's over. The kids he's one of the biggest sellers in the company as far as merchandise is concerned. The kids love him. Everybody at WrestleMania was getting their face painted by him. It's like this. He has just let on a phenomenon. It's ridiculous.
And what did he do? Who did he pay off to have this Knicks thing happen?
I don't know.
My God.
I would have said CM Punk, but CM Punk Chicago.
Yes.
Yeah. Because it was us. It was the Hawks. We came in and we were up 2-0 on the Knicks.
Well, WWE
we'll finish them and we'll get to the second round for the third time in our entire life. And then out of nowhere, he cursed us, and the Knicks beat us by like 68 points, literally. and they moved on, and they've just steamrolled everybody until Game 3 the other night against the Spurs.
That wasn't his fault.
That's ridiculous. And he's milking that. He's on every show. He's on Good Morning Schenectady all the way to Sports Center. Doing his bit.
See him more outside of wrestling than you do in.
That's correct.
That wasn't Danhausen's fault, by the way. I don't count that as Dan. That was somebody else's fault.
I bet if somebody at TKO probably hooked him up with the Knicks.
Don't say Cardi B. That was not Cardi B.
Cardi D, sorry.
Yeah, sorry. Charles Barkley made the
I got the reference, don't worry. I knew immediately where you were going with that.
Charles is the best. Charles Barkley is literally one of the funniest.
Did you just call him Charles Broccoli?
No, I said Charles Barkley.
It sounded like you said broccoli.
Screw you,
admit it.
Dude, I'm sorry, I love you.
Charles Broccoli.
Charles Broccoli.
Broccoli.
Charles Barkley. Jesus. Tom Brokaw here to report the news here on NBC Nightly News.
And Cutter. He was always saying Cutter instead of guitar.
Bukake. You've said that? What the fuck did you just say? Jesus Christ, Tom.
I would pay for him to. I would pay money to hear him say Bukake.
He said it. I've heard it. You can clip it online.
Damn, I don't have to pay any
He
money.
said that literally. Just go on YouTube and just see some of his flubs. He said that one time, literally.
Hey,
Bukake.
Scott, I don't have to spend money. He already said Bukake.
Tom Brokaw.
Anyway,
boy.
we have a wrestling show to talk about.
Back to Orlando. Back to
Welcome to Pod Talk here at PWW Talks. So we will start with tonight's card. Jim Powers defeats Hugh Morris.
Next.
That was the dark match.
That was we're talking about before he was General Erection. Sweet.
The Steiner Brothers versus Harlem Heat. They get 5 minutes and 1 second for the tag team titles.
Motherfucker.
Are you fucking kidding me right here? You're giving these two teams 5 minutes?
All the main events.
And you're not putting it on the main show?
No, all the main event matches from the 0 hour or whatever you want to
call
call it.
I forgot. You're right. This is during the time where they had the pre-show of, but they gave 5 minutes.
I hate the pre-show crap.
That's a great point, is why in the hell are the Steiners and the Heat on the main event show, and good God, Steve McMichael and what's his face are on the pay-per-view?
Joe Gomez, yeah.
John Tenta and Big Bubba instead of Eddie Guerrero and Steven Regal making the card.
Absolutely right.
Yeah. And you give the Rock and Roll Express and Fire and Ice, Jesus Christ, 2 fucking minutes? Really?
Yeah, so
Bobby Walker and Billy Kidman. Holy fuck, that'll put butts in the seats.
Also 2 minutes.
You can definitely tell that they don't really know what they have just quite yet.
No.
Right there.
And then I look at this.
So Harlem Heat's big deal in movie even.
It's all the Steiners.
I know. That's blowing my mind.
Jesus Christ.
Hey, we talked. Bobby Walker worked Kidman and went over. Bobby Walker. Bobby Walker was called Bobby Hard Work Walker. And we had a name for him called Bobby Hard to Watch Work Walker. Because he was one of these guys that claimed he was like the most agile guy at the power plant, could, walk the ropes and do front flips and back flips off the turnbuckle and all that. And every time he tried, he fell on his ass. Every time.
Oh, God. And it's just like, well, he tries. It's like, why are you booking him on the show? Well, he tries.
Guy, good athlete, but just, he was trying to sprint before he could walk, and it just didn't work.
It was very obvious to me watching that.
They got tired of him.
I mean, maybe, but it was very obvious to me watching that they stuck him with Kidman as a squash match to try to make him look good.
Well,
it still didn't work.
Who else you got to put in with? You want to make someone not look like a total piece of pile of crap.
You gave the Rock and Roll Express 2 minutes. You gave the Rock and Roll Express and Eddie Guerrero and Steven Regal 2 minutes. Are you?
3 minutes for them.
I'm looking at this card, and I'm looking at, and I know it's the main event, but I'm looking at this, and I'm like, no wonder you go out of fucking business within 5 years.
I don't think that's going to drive them out of business.
No, but that's going to be it's going to be a partly reason because people are just like, I'm not watching this shit. Like,
now we are looking at it through 30-year-old glasses.
I would have said
nobody
this
can
in
tell me
1997.
that
I would have
Eddie
said this.
and Lord Regal and Ray and Psychosis, that those 4 guys didn't belong on the pay-per-view even in 1996. They did. Absolutely.
They did. They absolutely did.
That Ray Psychosis match was really good, though.
Of course it
Holy
was.
shit. That's the third time I've seen it.
Like, and that Ray had nothing but consistent quality.
It's not even their best match because their best one's an ECW match.
Well, of course.
Still, yeah.
But it's still for a mainstream wrestling audience, even though ECW, some people, it's mainstream. It isn't. It is not. You cannot put a lot of ECW, like WCW. You can have a YouTube channel. In fact, they do. WWE Vault has a YouTube channel as well. You can't do ECW. You can't.
Not unless you can have an uncensored version somehow.
Maybe Patreon. That'll be next.
It's
though.
the
I don't want to give
music,
any
though,
fucking
too.
ideas.
WWE
Yeah,
Patreon.
exactly.
It's the music for ECW.
In the
They're
wallet.
going to run into issues anyways.
Yeah, that would be also the problem too.
Well, they had one of their main guys coming out to enter Sandman, and they didn't have permission then.
Well, then there's Deep Purple. You got Shane Douglas coming out to Deep Purple, for Christ's sake. It's like, yeah, I'm sure,
Yeah. Man, Deep Purple didn't deserve that. They needed their music on a better guy.
Really? Shane Douglas is not a better guy?
You guys correct me on this if I'm wrong, and I may be, but wasn't the deal I always heard two stories about Paul E and the music. One is that he just did it and dared him to sue him, which sounds a whole lot like Paul E. Mm-hmm. But the other one was if you were playing the music through the house audio, you had to have one license for that, and that license did not allow you to broadcast it. So their excuse or their legal escape was going to be that was just ambient sound in the building. So we had a license for that, but we're broadcasting whatever's happening, and if the music plays, the music plays. We're not putting it through the audio of the show.
Did you ever watch any of their weekly TV?
Actually, after we were done, I went back and watched almost all of it. Yeah.
Yeah. If you remember how he used to edit, where it was just like, where he was actually ingenious of doing this. He would just take clips of the matches and like insert them in like already pre-made like music videos. See,
Right.
you'd be watching, and it would just be, because this is a very famous one, where it's the entire recap of the Dreamer Raven feud, and it's cut with the music video for Nirvana's Teen Spirit video. And then it's the same thing with whenever it was November to Remember, he would just use November Rains by Guns N' Roses, and he would just cut it with all of the active storylines that are going on into that show.
Yep.
So
And which is illegal, but also at the same time,
probably inspired that Linkin Park My Way video just a little bit with Austin and Rock.
that wasn't Linkin Park, that was Limp Bizkit. Get it right.
Limp Bizkit. Shit. I know it's Limp Bizkit. I'm just coming down on some soda.
They're all.
It's only been 25 years.
And I always wondered why, because Rob Zombie's not an idiot.
No.
And I don't know about Dick Dale. He might have even been dead by the time that was done. But using Miserlou and Thunderkiss 65, they use that every week.
They
and
did.
How they got away with that, I'll never know.
Then he also used 9 Inch Nails. He also used them for the intro, where it was like they would do the lettering and you would just hear like, so he was very creative, and it was very.
And he was also well in point with the time frame of the music that people want to hear.
I'll say this about Paul Heyman. He watched a lot of Pulp Fiction, and probably he watched a lot of Pulp Fiction and Reservoir Dogs, and he said, I'm going to make a wrestling promotion off these two movies.
Yep,
And that's pretty much what he did. And that worked for the time, and it was perfect because he did the same thing with the music. He took the music from Pulp Fiction, and that would be like the closing angle of the show of just everybody just doing like this giant like promo package, and it was like 10 different people in like a 2 or 3 minute span. And but that was their show every week. I felt like it was the first TikTok wrestling promotion, and also too, it ran on Adderall, because it's just like, How do you focus here, people? But it's interesting because ECW can make an argument was the number one wrestling promotion in 1995.
Well, have you seen the creative the other two shows were doing in 95?
Exactly. That's why I say you can make the argument.
Well, that's a low bar there.
It's a low bar, but it's a bar.
Mabel versus Kevin Nash. Hogan versus the Butcher.
And to think a
That's
year
94.
later.
Yep.
Yeah, with the what you call it, the Dungeon of Doom with Curtis Ikea.
To think
Is that
water.
95
It's
or
not
is that
hot.
92?
it's not hot.
It's not hot.
There's no Hulkamaniacs in here.
Jesus.
And to think that we are months from that, not years. We are months from
months.
that.
Yeah.
And this company has turned like they were under 200,000. I think it was 170,000 that ordered the Great American Bash. They got 250,000 to order Bash at the Beach 1996. They did not drop below the 200,000 mark for the rest of the year. They do not drop below 200,000 until sold out 1997, which you can
It's
also argue was
not
a
a good
bad
show.
show, but also too it was held on Super Bowl weekend and it was held on a Saturday, which
I think
historically draws
Eddie Gu-
less than
I think they had the Eddie Guerrero X-Pac ladder match, though. If anyone wants to not watch the whole show, I think that's the match to see.
Yes, because who wants to see the Giant and Hulk Hogan and Hollywood Hogan for the title? And it's just
Again.
pretty much like again.
I'll tell you this. This kind of gets lost in the ether because it's business, not the business, but just business about the business. You're right, Dan, about the buy rates on the pay-per-view. But when we would do Saturday night, they would give us a run sheet of, you got to put this stuff over. Here's what we want you to put over. Not about the match, but just get these bullet points in. And one of them was always on sales for TV tapings and house shows. And we would do, whoever it was me and Professor, me and Legend, me and Dream. We would do this stuff and we would put over the on sales. Tickets go on sale Tuesday morning at 10 o'clock or Friday morning at 10 o'clock, whatever. And for a Saturday night taping, which that was my show, and it at times was not that great. It was fun, but it wasn't this. And they would have people lined up like hours before the on sale for a Saturday night taping. That's how over all of this got after this show.
I mean, you have to look at it from just the June to July, because an 80,000 jump is significant. And it's almost like Hall and Nash's contracts paid for themselves. That show, you can look at it historically with the money that they made, because let's say it's between $30 and $40. So you're 80,000 buys. So that's a lot of money. That is a lot of money that you made on one night. And then the next month at Hog Wild, you do another 200,000, another 200,000 for September, another 200,000 in October, November, December. So you ask yourself, Hall and Nash, you make the argument, they overpaid for those guys. They didn't earn those guys probably paid for their contracts within 2 or 3 months of the buy rates. That's not even including the merchandise.
I'll leave this to somebody to look up and do the research because I don't remember the numbers. It's been 30 years. But I know for Hogan, and maybe for Scott and Kevin too, that they got a percentage of the buy rate money.
Hogan did, I believe, yes.
Mm-hmm.
1,000 buys for a pay-per-view at $40. We would get half. The rest of it would go to the satellite provider and cable company and stuff. So that's $4 million, right? And is that $4 million? Yeah, $4 million. Yeah. And out of that, Hogan would probably get 400,000.
As he should.
And I'm making up numbers. I'm not saying that's exactly it, but he would get a percentage of the buy rate, whether it was crap or whether it was great. And he also got his, whatever his deal said he got paid. So he was making money hand over fist. So we got money from that, and we did, but a lot of it went to pay at least pay his salary. And, he drew the numbers, so I'll give him that. But his paydays on those pay-per-views were astronomical.
I mean, when you bring him in, there's a blessing and a curse. And the blessing is, yes, you're going to have a lot of eyes on your product. The curse is, though, you're going to pay for it creatively and financially. And creatively, you're going to be limited. And also, you're going to have to deal with the dreaded, that doesn't work for me, brother, at 7:55 at an 8 o'clock show. So that comes with the territory, sorry. But this night was completely different. But we'll get more into that later on because, of course, we should get to the rest of the card. We already talked about a little bit about Rey Mysterio and Psychosis. Maybe not their best match in the United States, but to a mainstream wrestling audience, this is really the first time that a lot of them were able to get to see these two perform, and they were able to get 15 great minutes out of them, even though they, of course, the main event. We're going to give Regal and Guerrero only 3 minutes. Man, it's a great idea.
But you think that that show starts off with Ray Jr. and Psychosis. And granted, they're not trying to, impress a whole lot of people. They've already got their money. But Ray Jr. and Psychosis, what a great way to start the show. That sets the bar. Then you follow it up with Tenta and
I've got to ask a question about this Tenta match. Okay, Tenta is probably about 400 pounds, rough bar. Big Bubba is probably 300 plus. Was the idea of having the longest pole I've ever seen in a wrestling match, was that a rib? Did they just do that to mess with them? Because there's no way either one of them was climbing that.
I guess, there's a whole lot. It's kind of like putting Judy Bagwell on a pole in 2000. I mean, it's like, why would you do that? Why would you have either one of these guys who are both neither one of them are going to climb a pole. They can't get
Jimmy Hart
to the top turnbuckle, and we're going to have them get up there and start climbing. That's not going to happen.
I have to ask this because you were there for that. You were there at that very instant that got put together. In your mind, when you're watching that happening, is it the moment that Willem Dafoe is getting taken down in Platoon for you, where it's just you hear that music in the background and you're just like putting your hands in your head, and you're just like,
Are you talking about Tenta and Bubba or Judy Bagwell on a pole?
Judy Bagwell on a pole.
Oh yeah, no. The thing is, when we were announcing those shows, we already had the production meeting, so we knew what was going to happen. You don't
sold it in a production meeting. This is going to work somehow.
No, we knew. I mean, you don't have to be Bill Watts or Eddie Graham.
I know, but like Russo was saying, it was going to
go. This is stupid. This is not going to work. And
Russo was over there saying, "Yes, it is."
Vince. I love Vince to death. We've had this discussion, but when he throws 500 things against the wall on a Nitro, if 490 stick, you're only going to remember the 10 that didn't, and that's one that didn't.
Yeah.
I'll make this public again. Because I want people to understand here too. And I also want certain people to hear this. Vince, if you want to come on the show, you have my assurance. I will treat you very well. And I think we would have a good time together. We wouldn't have to sit here and dance around. And I might bring up some bad things in the past. I might do that just for the sake of argument. But at the same time, I'll bring you onto the show and I'll be respectful. So again, I want to make that out there in case you get back to Vince or whatnot, or if Vince sees this show because he knows that you're on it. Open invitation, Mr. Russo, and I'll treat you with kid's glove and respect. I can't say the same thing about Mac, though. Can't do that. I'm not going to speak for him, Mac.
I'm here. I treat him with respect.
Yeah, myself. I don't know.
It's Vince freaking Russo.
Yes, I will treat him with respect and honor. And you know, we
Hey,
will have.
we treat Ahmed Johnson with respect. Well, there's not a lot of
You
podcasts
did.
have done that.
God,
You and John did, where I was just like, I'm going to stay out of that one.
Yeah.
Because I just because the problem was that I came on when I came on here first, I'm just like, I'm going to be different. I'm going to hold, and it's like, nah, now I'm different. I'm just like, I'll have anybody on. Bring them on. It's fine. Even do Ryback. Maybe not Ryback.
Oh God,
That's right.
I was gonna say, hold on a second.
That's where I'm crossing the line. There's no way. But you know,
Ask him his
like,
opinions on technical wrestling and how the best way to do it. I'm sure he knows how to execute a Bret Hart style match.
I'm sure that would be very insightful.
it's so insightful.
Yeah. He teaches how to work New Japan.
John Tenta versus Big Bubba in 1996, though. It's like you're sitting here and you're just like, am I sure I'm not watching SummerSlam 90? What the fuck's going on here?
I gotta say this.
No, John Tenta, he had been through the earthquake and the avalanche and the shark. And all. He'd been through all of that, and he's John Tenta. I remember that promo, but I'm not a fish and all that. But
I'm a man. I'm not a fish. I'm a man.
I can't remember where he was billed from, but I know Bubba was always billed from Cobb County, which is a sort of a shoot. He's from Paulding County, next door. Neither of them were billed from Nevada. And so why this was a Carson City Silver Dollar match is beyond me.
Oh, God.
I remember another match with, I think, John Tenta in WCW. It was one of those War Games matches, and I don't remember what year, but I guess it's 95. He's getting ready to jump across the ropes. He doesn't make it. And he gets hooked up between the two ropes, and you see Sting just in the background, just kind of like, whoa. Doubles like, what the hell? And then he gets back on the horse and kicks him. But that image of him just getting stuck on the ropes because he couldn't make the jump.
95 always bothered me because I'm like, they couldn't just have Giant be the fourth guy and squash Hogan and then have Logan lose the match. But no, of course, it's like Hogan wins, but he gets attacked afterwards. It's like, so where's the heat for the heels then? Like, it just.
Are we talking about the
Never
Yeti rape, or are we talking about one of the other shows?
Oh, we're talking about Brawl Ball 95 because you mentioned War Games.
Ah, yes. Okay.
Yeah. So I was bringing that up because I was staying on your point with yours. But yes, I should continue with the direction of the actual show we're talking about instead of. But they had a Carson City Silver Dollar match in a match that's held in Daytona Beach. Like, where is it?
I don't know what they're even trying to say there.
I don't think they know what they're trying to say there.
It's a pole match. There's like coins in the sock, and I guess you get hit in the. I don't know if you've ever been hit by a sock full of coins. I can tell you for a fact that it fucking hurts. My brother was an asshole.
So I mean, just go with soap, and you got Full Metal Jacket match. Like,
but they could have just called a quarter match. I don't know. So, I don't know. Sock with coins match. Anything.
Yeah, we just needed Jacques Rougeau and Dynamite Kid to be the enforcers on the outside. We could have a roll of quarters match.
But you know what the thing is for me about this card, especially this part? You have 3 gimmick matches in a row.
Of course. It's because they didn't do enough of it at Uncensored 96 when every match is a stipulation, for Christ's sake.
Clearly not enough.
It's like, oh, we'll just save it for July. Why? They had a Falls County match. They had a legendary Falls County Anywhere match literally the month before in Baltimore. And the next month, it's just like a Carson City street fight. What? All right.
I mean, I watched this whole show over the weekend, and granted, now that's been 3 days ago. And after what comes after this match is so much better, and that's goes without saying.
Low point.
But I have this vague memory. Didn't they do something where they cut Tenta's hair? Or am I making that up? Am I misremembering?
They shaved he got his beard
like
half shaved, but I think it was on Nitro. Yeah, but he was wearing at one point he had half a beard and half a shaved head. It was really weird. I kind of felt bad for him at this time because they just ran him through. Like, they had him get that tattoo done because he was from LSU. So he was an LSU Tiger.
Yeah.
And then they were like, can you get that changed as a shark? And he's like, yeah, I'll do it, but I'm not a shark. I'm a tiger from LSU. They had him do the shark gimmick, and then they had him change within a few weeks. So he's just like, I just got this tattoo done. And they're just like, yeah, well, you got to do something else.
They did cut his hair, by the way.
Was when Hogan came in, I think we've talked about this, they put Kevin in charge of Hulk's booking.
We're talking
knowing
Kevin.
that Hulk could veto everything. But Kevin is one of the smartest guys ever in the history of the business, to me.
Probably my favorite heel booker ever, too.
Yeah, wonderful. And so they said, you're in charge. Whatever Hogan wants, make it happen, but make it happen for real. Don't just do it. Give it a story. So it was his idea to do this Dungeon of Doom thing, and Hogan wanted only big guys, and preferably only big guys he had worked with in the past that he could trust. And if you look, that's who was in the Dungeon of Doom, except Curtis Ikea, who didn't work, obviously. But it was Kamala, it was Brutus, it was Earthquake, and then they were bringing the Giant in for that. And then whoever else ended up in there. I think Hugh Morris ended up in there for a week.
I think Hugh Morris was in there for a week. Then they brought in, let's not talk about an uncensored, which they brought in Z Gangster, which
yeah, and then they had Jeep Swenson in who
as the ultimate solution, which they quickly changed to something else because the ultimate solution isn't known for something else.
Isn't that isn't Jeff Sensen the guy that was Bane in the Batman and Robin movie?
Correct.
Yes.
And took so many steroids. He did not have a good quality of life.
No, he was literally dead like months after that match.
Yeah, it was
Triple Tower of Doom thing or whatever it was.
I mean, I remember when he first came out, and I was just like, he looked like somebody that they just stopped. Like they left the pump in for tires, and it just like they just left it there, and it kept going and going and going and going, and it wouldn't stop, and it wouldn't pop. It just kept going. That's what he looked like as a human being. I'm like, that's not natural, and it wasn't. But it just didn't look. It just didn't look right.
Yeah, most people. He's such a small number. He's such a small player in wrestling that most people will probably remember Batman and Robin first.
Oh,
yes, sure. That is true. But like, of course, I'm a complete nerd. So when he brought up Jeep Sanson, I'm like, yeah, I know who he is. Yeah, God. What that whole time again. The Dungeon of Doom angle, 4 months within this show. Like the stank is still there from it. The stench is still wafting a little bit. It's still there. It's still permanent.
Pre-Russo, if I were to argue what the worst shows ever done by WCW before the Russo era, I would probably go with Uncensored 95 and I think Great American Bash 91, the one right before Flair got fired. Or right after Flair got fired.
Yeah, the one after Flair got fired.
Old title.
That was terrible. And then Uncensored 96, Uncensored 95.
No more. You got to put that Battle Bowl crap in there.
That Battle Bowl was dull. It was boring, but it wasn't like I don't think it was as bad as Uncensored 95.
Nah,
it's on the level though.
Yeah,
King of the Road match.
But they did have that slightly too long match with the Road Warriors, and I think it was against.
It was Sting and Luger.
Yeah,
not Sting and Luger, but Sting and Booker T actually, because Luger was in because he was in the cage match later on in the night.
It was like a street fight.
So Luger was the sub. I mean, Booker was the sub for Luger.
Yeah,
because that was
It's been about 3-4 years since I watched most of these shows, except for this one.
Yes. I don't know why I watch Uncensored 96 quite often, because to me it's kind of like it is like a Twin Peaks episode a little bit. I feel like if you change like the music during the match, it's just like, okay, it makes sense. Now it makes sense.
What is it? No, on the subject, since who knows when we'll ever get back to it. This is a question for Scott.
Okay.
What is it with WCW and its history in tower matches and weird cage constructions? Because it isn't just this one. There's a couple towers of dooms. There's all sorts of different things where there's like stacking cages or merging cages. What is up with WCW and all that in its history?
Or an electric chair and a cage that
one too.
Fire, and then Muda having to put the fire out by spitting green mist on it.
Can I make an answer?
That's peak legend there.
Can I answer this question?
Yeah, go ahead.
It's because Ted Turner has the fucking money. Why don't we just keep doing this? Because he's not going to say no.
Well, that's true. But the answer is this. They wanted stuff that looked larger than life on television. They booked the wrong way. They booked from how it looked and then tried to come up with the storyline and an angle and the issue and everything. They said, let's build a 3-story cage. Great. Who are we going to have in it? I will figure that out later.
For WWE, on the other hand, they had when they had their first Hell in a Cell, they already had a story built before we were talking about the cell. At the first Elimination Chamber, they had everyone that was in that first Elimination Chamber match was someone that Triple H had feuded with recently.
Correct.
So they had the stories first.
First TLC match. There was always a progression.
Yeah.
And with
WCW did it the other way. They did it backwards.
Let's build it first, and then we'll do everything else second.
Build it, and they will come.
Yes, exactly.
They didn't come. Those weren't other better selling shows. But my notes. I think that the next match is DDP versus Jim Duggan.
In a taped fist match.
And this is DDP he's on his way up, but nobody knows yet he's going to be something. Well, Bobby Heenan knows, because if you listen to commentary across the last few months, he's subtly saying that DDP is good, but most people don't know that DDP is about to be something awesome.
Yeah.
I don't think we know that DDP is going to be a big deal until Starrcade. When Starrcade happens, I think that's when people are just like, oh shit, like we got to take him for real. And then
95, there's a clip of Heenan saying that Diamond Dallas Page is going to be a champion, and he almost never says things like that.
No,
even put over heels.
I understand with Heenan, but I think the rest of everybody else, including myself, at least going back to 1996, I didn't start taking DDP seriously until Starrcade of that year. And then with a few weeks after that, the famous Nitro, I think it was in New Orleans, when he was the first one to get to Hall and Nash with the diamond cutter, where he took the T-shirt and then the fake pulls him in, cutter, then he gets rid of Nash, and that pretty much made him at that point a made guy. Like at that point, it's just like, yep, DDP's the guy.
That's how much heat NWO had. You can just have a guy hit a move and he gets all that much more over.
Yep. And it worked. Sure. And it all wouldn't have happened but again, just think about it. He's sitting there and he's just like, he's not knowing in 6 more months, he's going to be one of the biggest baby faces in the company. Like in 6 months from now, his life is going to change forever. Where at that point, it's just like, I didn't think I would ever get past this point. You're going to be a main event guy in 6 months. Like,
yeah.
Because that guy's waited, he got in this industry in his 30s. And
he's working from underneath. That's for damn sure.
He started as an announcer working with Gordon Soley in full of Florida.
Yeah.
And
don't watch that.
I've seen the old tapes.
PWF stuff. Jeez Louise.
But here he is working in Florida as an announcer with Soley, and then within
that's a weird pairing.
A few years from that, now he's going to be one of the biggest baby faces in the company.
Yeah.
Like, what a story! It doesn't get enough play. I'm glad now finally people are realizing what a good guy the DDP is because of the work he's done the last 15 years.
I think we can blame Vince for this. Let's bring him in and make him a stalker and make him unappealing in every way we can and make him lose while we're at it and make sure Sarah can make him bump to Sarah. These are great plans to get a guy over.
Paige is the perfect example of after they bought us out and brought some of us in up there in the WWF, that they were never, ever, ever, ever going to book anybody to be over. They just wanted to kill everybody. And somehow Booker and Ray Jr. And to a lesser degree, Chuck Palumbo got over in spite of what they did to them. And Page is the perfect example of, we'll bring Page in and just destroy him. And they did.
They were on the right path with Sean O'Hara.
True.
Sean O'Hara had a lot of potential. He was on the right path. I don't understand if it was injuries or just other stuff that went, or just mismanagement.
I loved how you just say really awful crap. I can't remember any of the lines now.
That gimmick was perfect.
In 03.
It was so good. I was like, I was all for him at that point. I'm like, yeah, put the rocket on him. This kid's good. Because he was one of those guys in WCW. I was just like, he's got a lot of potential because he looks like Batista, but he moves like Jeff Hardy. How is this even possible?
That's good. That's a good analogy.
There's something I want to talk about with this matchup that we're on that doesn't get a lot of play with WCW. That's that Jim Duggan here. Jim Duggan, for some people at 95, 96 is like, why is he here? This is an 80s guy. But I want to defend this guy because you look at Jim Duggan in Vince McMahon era, he's got that big 2x4. He's this big old badass. He's supposed to be beating people up, but the show's extremely cartoonish, so you never get to see any of that. So he comes to WCW, he's having tape fist matches, he's using weapons, he's brawling around the floor, he's doing, maybe not so much with blood, but he's doing a lot of that stuff you'd see in an ECW. And I always thought, and for me personally, I always liked Duggan best in that late 94 to early 96 period in WCW where they let him showcase what Duggan's character was built for.
Well, it's like the old Mid-South, the old UWF. What he was then back in the mid 80s.
Just give him some weapons, let him go out into the floor, a tape fist match or some bullshit, and just let him beat people up. It works. People cheered for it. They didn't cheer for Honky Tonk or any of the other mother MFs. They liked he got decently mid-level over.
Yeah. It was like Brody. I mean, not to compare Duggan to Brody, but that's all Brody was. You know, bring him in and let him beat people up because he's a big guy and he's tough and he doesn't care. And they could have done that with Duggan because he was a big guy and he was tough. He did care. He wasn't, like Brody in that regard. But yeah, they could have. And when they did, he got over.
I loved it. It was some of the best stuff of a bad year in 95. I will defend that take to my grave. Kiss my ass.
I don't disagree with you.
It's weird with Duggan. It's weird with Duggan because now I have an appreciation for him. I think as a I have an appreciation for him because of nostalgia, obviously. But back then in 95, 96, I was just like, he fucking sucks. Like he
wasn't cool.
He's got one move, and it's not even that good. Like and then he had the Old Glory knee drop. I remember that was going back to that Kevin Nash commentary.
If you're going for a Duggan match thinking about what wrestling holds he can execute, I think you're looking at it from the wrong point of view. This is a guy who punches people and in WCW hits them with weapons.
Yeah, I understand that. But again, this is 1995 and 96 that I was thinking that. Not because now I have an appreciation for Duggan. I think he's great. But I was 12, 13. I was just like, nah, I don't like him.
I'll give you another analogy for what they did with Duggan is what Duggan was in Mid-South to what Vince did with Duggan, and then what he ended up becoming again for a little, to a much lesser degree is what the sheep herders were, and then when they became the bushwhackers.
That's true.
It was like
that's true.
Two totally different teams.
Vince did cartoon them up, and then too with another thing about Duggan, I did have the 2x4, so full admission. Like I did have the type 2x4, but you just shit on him with 12 or 13. I was like 7 or 8 when I got the 2x4. Okay, thanks very much. Here's my therapy session.
I was 24.
Well,
Want to do some
I,
math.
I was just saying that when I got the thing, it was still like 1991. That was my first wrestling show, and I think I got the foam 2x4, and then it was the Hulk Hogan foam figure.
The first one I saw was the first Survivor Series. My brother stole a videotape from somebody, and we watched it.
Oh, that was the one from Richfield Coliseum?
That's the one. That's the one. I think there's two of them in Richfield, but this is the one where Andre's the sole survivor, but Hogan can't handle it, and so chases him out of the ring and kills anyway.
Yeah, and then I love 88. 88 is probably one of my favorite pay-per-views.
My favorite is 87, but 88 is fucking great. So
88 is just like is peak that era in my opinion.
I love the ridiculousness of the 10 people on the tag team match. Just have
that visuals
10 people on each side.
Like,
it's
20 people.
Those rings had to be reinforced.
Whoa!
And like Ash and Smash were at the very beginning of their run.
And this is also a time too when managers would escort them, when everybody had a manager. So it's like
shitload around
there's 50 people around. You're like, oh my god, this is awesome.
I'm sure the people in the worst front row sections probably hated this. It's like,
I know.
What happened? I heard that Jim Neidhart got a drop kick. I didn't see shit. Smash's fat ass is in my way.
It was smart of them though to have one person gets pinned instead of just like both guys have to get eliminated, because they would have been there probably still working.
And you would have been there all fucking night. That match was already the longest one they had on the show. It would have been at least an extra 40 freaking minutes.
But that main event too, with like Hogan and Savage being the sole survivors, was that's perfect. That was a perfect ending to a perfect show that night. And then another turn too of the Hogan Savage turn, where it's like, oh, there's more evidence that Savage is going to use later on.
Lust in his eyes.
Oh, so good. But yes, a tape fist match following a Carson City roll of quarters match. Wow. So we're going to throw all that out. We're going to go completely different style here. A double dog collar match. The Nasty Boys defeat the Public Enemy. They give these guys 11 minutes and 25 seconds. The Public Enemy and the Nasty Boys.
Yeah, this is them. I think this is WCW trying to win over some of those ECW fans, not successfully, but I think that they were trying to.
Paul Heyman would not give the Public Enemy 11 minutes. He knows better not to give those guys 11 minutes. He'd be like, no fucking way.
I think was there like a table botch where they were supposed to go through the table and they didn't? Because I think I was watching it. I was like, oh, the table didn't break because they hadn't quite figured out table mechanics just yet in '96.
Well, I think, too, they were using real tables back then because they were probably cheaper than gimmicked ones. I don't think they really started to realize good tables until probably like 95, 96.
Well, the positioning, and on a real table, the positioning matters because I've actually gone through a couple tables. You got to be right in the middle, and I think they were close to one side, and ain't gonna freaking break.
It's kind of like Flair that time he got pile driven by Funk in '89 at Wrestle War, because that was not a gimmick table. And Flair's just like, like he almost broke his neck legitimately because it's just like,
Hogan did the same thing to Harley Race. Hogan did the same thing to Harley Race with a table spot. I don't remember what the move was that was being executed.
It was the headbutt off the apron, and he went through the table, but the part that he went through was like the edging of the table just like went into his stomach and caused a hernia.
Yeah, he went to the bad shit part of the table.
Yeah, so which it was nobody's fault. It's just shit happens. It's like a freak.
It was one of the earliest attempts at a table spot, and it probably the fact that he got hurt probably delayed table spots for a good 2-3 years, because there was another one in '89 with Ultimate Warrior and Rick Rude.
There was also the famous one too was Hogan in Earthquake at '90 at SummerSlam, where Hogan picked him up on the outside and like sent him through a table and then won by countout, which people were just like, "Oh, that's your return match. You won by countout." What the hell?
Well, in 1990, the fans didn't care too much. It wasn't until Lex Luger wins by countout in '93 that they said, "This sucks."
Well, this is bullshit.
All the balloons dropping, fireworks and streamers. Look at this guy who's not the freaking champion.
And he's out there with everybody's on his shoulders like it's Bret Hart in 1994.
There's nothing like being a tape trader in the mid 80s I'm talking about the table spot again, and how now it's ubiquitous. It's not even a finish; it's a gimmick, and it's a transition spot. Whatever.
Yeah.
I remember getting a copy of the tape of Ricky Morton and Randy Savage in Memphis, where Savage did a pile driver on Morton through a table at ringside, and never having seen that before. This was 83, 82, way back, 44 years ago. That was just mind blowing.
That's got to be one of the first table spots, if not the first.
I think it was. It was right up there where they were doing the very first, or the first I'd ever heard of, the first scaffold match with like Bill Dundee and Coco Ware and whoever else.
Yeah, before Jim Cornette blew out his knees.
Yeah, way before that. But yeah, seeing that stuff for the first time, nothing beats that. And now you see it, and it's like, it's been done.
Or don't forget Jerry Lawler and Joe LeDuc, where LeDuc press slammed Lawler. Lawler missed a spot and literally broke his leg because it bounced off the table.
Right.
And he was just like, oh. And I think the first one in WWE, if I recall, was Survivor Series 95, Bret Hart and Diesel. And then Bret ended up getting put through the table.
Yeah.
And then
all the audience just jumped up to see that shit.
Yeah.
It just ran up. It was like,
It was
whoa.
just like, holy shit, what just happened?
Mm-hmm.
And then
I love
Bret
that match.
It was so
That's probably
good.
my favorite Kevin Nash match, that one, right? That one and the Shawn Michaels one the next year.
Shawn Michaels won. And I thought WrestleMania 12 against Taker was really good too.
There aren't many good matches to pick from with Kevin Nash. Just saying. My favorite is one of the 5 that's worth talking about.
Well, the problem that I have is that you're probably in the Cornette camp that he has. He has 5 moves, and that includes the hair flip. Motherfucker.
Hey, he no-showed the convention I was going to. That I paid money to see him earlier this year, so I'm a little more feeling towards Cornette's side now.
I've met Kevin Nash, and he's a gentleman and a scholar. I have no problem with Kevin Nash whatsoever.
That sounds like Kevin Nash. What? Every time I hear somebody do a Kevin Nash impersonation, it's always, I didn't have a problem with disco. Every Kevin Nash impersonation starts with, I didn't have a problem with.
One of my favorite shoot interview moments ever you're actually involved with, it was Kevin Nash explaining that time at spring break when him and Hall were completely fucking hammered. And
that narrows it down.
And Kevin Nash was reciting the fact that they were in board shorts and Hawaiian shirts with cases of beer, running to Hulk Hogan's trailer to get a beer in Hulk Hogan and Randy Savage's hand before Eric Bischoff could yell at them because they were drinking because they were on double secret probation. Right. And then Bischoff gets into the trailer and sees Hogan, Savage, and Hall and Nash drinking, and at that point can't yell at any of them because at that point Nash is just like, well, like I pretty much got the principle that's just say it's okay, so you can't yell at me. And then later on in the night, when Eric Bischoff is telling him that he's not drunk, he's like, "I'm not drunk, Eric. I'm not drunk." And Nash recites some girl throwing a cup, like a drink from the scaffolding. Nash catches it and then drinks it in front of Bischoff and says, "I'm not drunk, Eric. See, I'm showing you." Buff Bagwell turns around immediately to Buff Bagwell. Buff Bagwell says, "Dude, that's like some James Bond shit." And Nash looks at him and says, "I'm so hammered."
It probably takes a lot to get Kevin Nash drunk, though, with his size.
One of my favorite stories I have ever heard still to this point, and also just I'm like, I can never say anything bad about Kevin Nash again, but also meeting him was, again, he was a gentleman and a scholar. And of course, meeting him, like, here he is, one of my favorite people ever, because in 1994 and 1995, you can probably ask my mother this, that I broke more TV trays in my house with the Jackknife Powerbomb than I think any other move.
I like that move.
Jesus. Those goddamn wrestling buddies, I swear.
Wrestling buddies. Wow.
What
But
it was?
back to the boys and the Public Enemy.
Yes.
You said Paulie would never give Public Enemy 11 and a half minutes. The reason why is he would never give them longer than the song. Because he knew it was like the Gangsters. As soon as the song was over, the match would be over. Because you got to have the music playing underneath them. People don't want to see them wrestle. They want to see them basically do a live action music video to, what was it? The Hot Stepper? What was that? Was that the song?
Yeah, it was a Hot Stepper. You're right.
That's
Cool visual. Cool
that?
visual for the entrance, but that's it.
No.
Oh yeah, they
The
definitely
song was
weren't
over.
the Dudley brothers or the Dudley boys, were they? Not even a little.
And then they ended up getting heat when they went back to ECW because they wouldn't sell for the Dudley boys. And the
We do
Dudleys,
that once.
Sounds dangerous.
and they were never used again. And the Dudleys just beat the shit out of them.
Like I said, that sounded dangerous. It's like
Because this is early '99 Dudleys. Like, this is not the time to fuck with the Dudleys.
No.
yeah.
they
Well, I would
fucked
no
with the
selling for
Dudleys.
for the Dudleys is probably just a really bad plan.
Yeah. And
No matter when
At
it
any
is
point.
today. Yeah. I mean, right now you sell for the 2026. I would.
yeah, I'd sell.
You got me.
Yeah.
I won't make this look good. I'll do my part.
Oh, 3D? Yeah, sure, I'll take it.
Yeah. Freaking Taker took the 3D and refused to kick out of it. So it was like, hey,
That I respect. Like, very few teams should be like kicking out. Like, you gotta still respect some finishers. Still, like, F5 7 in a match to put away Obafemi. Yeah, I kind of got a problem with that. Like, because how many Hogan leg drops did it take? Like after this. I mean, yeah, he hit a couple on Savage, of course, at the end of the night.
I
But,
can understand using a second or a third use of the same finisher in the right match, in the right place, like a Mania main event. But if you're doing 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 of the same amount of finishers, it's losing meaning, and it's also burying your own move, I feel, in most cases. Would you agree, Scott?
Yeah, but when you've got people that have creative control, not to put too fine a point on it, you're kind of limited. You can go in and put together the greatest match in the world, and not just Hogan, but a lot of the guys would do that. It doesn't work for me, and so you're very limited. Not everybody's Psychosis and Ray Jr. Or the
That's
next
probably why
match we're
Kenny
gonna talk
Omega
about.
never comes to WWE, because as soon as he does, somebody like Roman Reigns has said, "I want to kick out of the One Winged Angel." No one's ever done that, and someone in WWE is going to say that as soon as he shows up.
You're right, and not to badmouth Roman, but they probably wouldn't put him with Roman. It'd probably be
Seth,
L.A.
maybe?
Knight or somebody.
Oh no, they put
It's
him with
LA.
Roman quick.
Yeah,
Like I said,
Omega
that's-
legit has said he's wanted to wrestle Roman Reigns before. He said that.
They
before.
might get it. They might get that done.
But
they might
if he
get
went-
it done.
But if he went to WWE at some point, especially if he wrestled even say one full term year, at some point one of those big names up there is saying, "I want to kick out of the One Winged Angel."
Yeah.
And then they're going to have a problem.
Roman.
Sure.
Probably Roman. I mean,
No
the
one
problem
ever-
is now Jade Cargill's using it, and somebody kicked out of it. So
Yeah.
now you have a problem
That's true.
because
Yeah,
it's
but
like it's been
There's a
used.
super kick, and then there's a Shawn Michaels Sweet Chin music. There's a difference.
That's true. And then there's a Stone Cold Stunner to a Kevin Owens Stunner. That's true.
Yeah.
But it again. I gotta try to stay on track, people, and I know that everybody's just like, "Why are you giving 11 minutes to dog collar match?" I don't know. It's another baffling moment for the show where I'm just like,
God.
11
just
and a
wanna
half
say
minutes.
Probably the best match in Disco Inferno's career, and it's
Yes.
probably he has nothing to do with why it is.
No, because this is what we would call a carry job. Like, he's not only carrying the bags, he's carrying water bottles, gallons of paint. Think of the heaviest things you could possibly think of. Dean Malenko's got to carry it because he's got to carry Disco Inferno to a Cruiserweight Championship match for 12 minutes. Good Lord. I can see Dean Malenko just looking at the board and being like, you think I'm that good? Like, I'm good, but you think I'm that good?
I don't think anybody in their right mind had any doubt that Dean Malenko could carry Glenn in this match. And I'll tell you guys this. I was there with Glenn from 89 forward when we were all doing the local Georgia show. And Glenn gets a hell of a bad rap. But just inside the ropes in the ring, that guy was good. Not just not bad. He was good. And it doesn't surprise me at all that he and Dean had a tremendous match. Now, granted, could Disco come in with, anybody else and carry them to a match like that? No. But it just didn't surprise me that they had a terrific match. But again, Dean Malenko is so underrated still to this day. I know that he's, people say bad things about working with him outside of the ring, and and he's sick now, and the Parkinson's has a pretty tight grip on him. But I adore Dean. I love to watch him work. He's just so fun to watch.
I mean, if you ever in touch with Disco Inferno, pass him along this message.
Yes.
If he was WCW champion, he would have saved the company in 2000. I firmly believe that.
I'm sure he believes it.
Yeah, he would. He probably does. But that's one of my favorite, like little things that, it'll make my friends pop, because then somebody will be like, you might be right. I mean,
well, what we didn't work. So
yeah, it's like, at this point, fuck it. Let's just do it. How many times has Vacant been champion this year? Just give it to Disco. All right, sure. Why not?
Well, we gave it to David Arquette.
God, I'm sure Zabisco should have been campaigning in the back, being like, hey, I was AWA champion. Yeah, that's a good point. It's at that point, it's just like, well, who wants to be WCW champion? You mentioned Gene Kanitsky earlier. It's like Pat O'Connor. O'Connor just walked in the door. Holy jeez.
It's like the old joke about you have everybody lined up and everybody's in on the work except one guy, and like anybody that wants to be world champion, take one step forward, and everybody except one guy steps back. And, all right, you're it.
Luthez, everybody. What?
Yeah, champion. Desperado Joe Gomez.
Oh, good Lord. I mean, you got to ask yourself. I'll probably ask the question later on when we talk about, of course, the main event. But I mean, you got to give it to Glenn. Probably the best match of his entire career, working against Dean Malenko at the peak of his powers. Sure. You got to sit there and be like, yeah, you're right. I did get something out of that. Speaking of Joe Gomez,
yes, thank God,
Steve McMichael versus Joe Gomez.
I want to.
Why is this on a pay-per-view?
There's a good portion of our crowd who's probably never even heard of Joe Gomez. So can you tell us a little bit about him?
I'll say this. Deborah McMichael, and whatever name she ended up going by, one of the most beautiful women I think I've ever encountered in the business. That's a beautiful woman. So if the gimmick was to get Deborah on camera, good. I'm all for that. But my God, this was terrible. Joe Gomez on a pay-per-view, fourth from the top, with Steve McMichael, who's on a pay-per-view, fourth from the top. Why? I love Steve. He was great. He was a funny guy. He was tough as a bowling shoe. But, God, this had no business on the pay-per-view. None. And he had been around for 2 years already. It wasn't like, this is a gimmick, kind of a stunt appearance. He was with the company.
He had just turned in with the Horsemen a month earlier at Great American Bash.
Yeah, that's one of the.
And then-
that's going to be one of the most forgotten heel turns of the 1996. I wonder why.
Well, it was also pretty well done, actually, to be quite honest.
It's well done. That's not my point. My point is the timing.
I agree. Yeah, the timing of it sucks because it's like, because then you have the Horsemen now. It's like, holy shit, they have a fourth guy. Like, they actually have a technical worker in the third spot. Arn's wrestling still great. Flair's still on top. Like, I got a chance here with the Horsemen. And then a month later, it's like, nobody gives a shit.
Nope. No offense to Steve. This just did not belong on a pay-per-view.
It didn't. It should have been on the main event, and they should have put on, a better matchup, like maybe the Steiners and Harlem Heat instead of
and Lord Regal. I mean, anything
at that point instead of Joe Gomez and Steve McMichael.
Oh my
God! Barn burner right here.
Yeah.
Good
but
Lord,
I do know that
candidate.
there is the booking theory that you do. I mean, look at what bookended that match was Dean and Glenn, and then what we're getting to next is Flair and Conan, which were both good matches. So you gave people time to recover, catch their breath, go to the bathroom, and then they didn't miss anything.
You do need the piss break match, and that's kind of what McMichael and Gomez was, unfortunately. And I hate to speak
mission on a pay-per-view, so maybe this was it.
Yes, I hate to speak ill of the dead, Steve McMichael as well, because, hey, 86 Bears being on that team, and then, of course, being a Horseman, it's like, I mean, he was in two. Like, at that point, it's just like, how can life not get any better? Oh, now I'm a 4 Horseman? All right, hey. All right,
Deborah McMichael at her most beautiful.
Yes, without question.
Don't get me wrong; she looked great in WWF, but '96 here is a different level.
She was beautiful, but I agree. McMichael lived the dream. Got the ring with the Bears and got to be an announcer, and then got to come home to Deborah every night. Who knows how that ended up? But then he got to be a wrestler, got to be a Horseman. That's for such a tragic ending. He lived while he was alive, and I'm proud of him for that.
He did. He had a sensational run, and I'm sure he would tell you, he'd be like, you know what, the ending, I didn't like how it ended, but I had a damn good run to get where I was. So.
Something's going to get all of us, and it's what you do from the minute you come out of the birth canal until you get, put 6 feet under or whatever.
Part of the contract.
He had a good in between.
That's part of the deal. It's like this is how this begins, and this is how this ends, and this is everything in between is what you got to make of it. This is what happens.
We talk about Steve. We would be remiss. Both public enemies have passed.
Yeah.
And Tenta and Bubba.
Yep.
That's so those are sad. Hell, going back looking at the show. Let's see. Ice Train has passed away. Eddie, obviously.
And Savage and Hogan just passed.
Hogan and Hall.
Less than a year ago.
Scott Hall.
Fury passed away.
I mean, the Flair match, you got the 2 valets, both gone.
Yeah,
I want to, I mean, every time I see a picture or a video of Nancy, I like, it literally is just like, because it hurts because the fact, number one, I had like a wicked crush on her when I was a kid. Like she was striking. I'm just looking. I'm like, oh my God, those eyes. Like she had, like it was just. She could have been like a Batman villain or something, like a Poison Ivy, because she had that look in her face of just like, you're going to be a problem, and I understand that you're going to be a problem, but I'll do anything you fucking want. That she gives you that type of look, and that to me was a perfect valet, because she could not only be on the soft side of things, but she can be on the dark side too. And that's because of her time with Kevin Sullivan.
Well, she was just a mark from
Right.
Just Daytona. She
Yep.
was like in the front row at the Ocean Center for Championship Wrestling from Florida, and Kevin just picked her out.
And the rest is history. And it's
Yeah.
just like this whole. So every time you see her now, and it's just like, because you know how the story ends.
Yeah.
You know how tragic it is.
Mm-hmm.
You know how upsetting it is. And then, and then anytime I see Chris now, it's just like, I want to turn my head. So, but it's just that's the hard part of seeing some of these shows now. Cause it's like, and then you think about Liz too, and the ending that she got where it's just like,
Sure.
fucking really her to have, and
I can tell you a little inside baseball stuff. If you had a group of the boys sitting around watching this and doing what we're doing, and we came up to the next match we're going to talk about, which is Flair and Conan, with Liz and Nancy at ringside with Flair. If you said 2 of these 4 would be dead by 2026, I guarantee you not one would have said it's Liz and Woman.
yeah.
Yeah.
Not one.
I would also be remiss to say, with recent news of what Conan is going through,
Oh God.
we wish.
Yeah, that's so sad.
It's so sad. But the problems that he's had medically in the last few years.
Yeah.
My prayers and thoughts go out to him. I'm glad to hear that WWE is doing the absolute right thing in covering his medical costs, which, we demonize that company a lot of times and some of the things they have done, but they're absolutely doing the absolute right thing right now and taking care of Conan and his medical costs.
I think the world of that guy. I know he gets a lot of heat, but he's awesome.
No, I've never had an issue with Conan. Like, and I've heard a lot of people like criticize him. I'm just like, what for? Like, he's like, because I've never had an issue. It's just like, I think he's good enough. I think he's got a good, like when he was in, when he went to the Wolfpack, like working with Hall and Nash, I was just like, yeah, he fits his character. Like, he fits that group. Like, you need somebody like that. You do. And even as a heel, like, he's out there cutting some of those promos. I'm just like, yeah, you need that. Like, you just need somebody to be able to connect with that audience. So that way it's just like, yeah, you want to make it grow. That's how you do it.
I still love those promos. I think it was doing the Filthy Animals thing with Ray Jr. and Kidman and all those guys, where he would have Tigress, who was the Nitro girl, and the thing about you want to touch my vest, and she would start running. That's enough. I always pop for that. I don't know why. It was just really funny.
Scott, who is your favorite Nitro girl?
Favorite Nitro girl? Yikes!
You brought it up.
It's got to be Kim.
Well, you can obviously say
she
Kim.
counts. She's a Nitro girl. That's
right. Yes, she was. But like, I other than Kim, because Kim, Kim is kind of like, I don't know. It's like the obvious choice. I'd have to, so maybe there's the 1A of Kim, but you got to have a 1B. Who would be the 1B?
Probably Spice.
Okay.
I can't even remember her name now. It's been so long, but she ended up.
Shawn Michaels has a favorite.
Whisper I liked.
Oh yeah, Whisper is Sean's wife.
I
But
met
Spice
Shay. I thought Shay was amazing.
Shay was beautiful, but Spice ended up becoming a chiropractor. Like, she has a practice in Atlanta.
Oh, great. No, that's good.
Get her picture back.
I wish. I can't afford her. But I had the one named Fire. Her dad was like chairman of the Cobb County Commission, like ran Cobb County.
Okay.
So, which is just outside of Atlanta. That's where the Braves play now. And
right.
So, the Nitro Girls are just legit. They were not messing around. They were obviously good looking and very talented and all that, but they were not. They were all very, very smart.
Did any of them, like, I don't know. Did any of them like ever care about what was going on, like other than the dance, like their segments?
Oh yeah.
Like, okay.
Remember when Vince came in? He wanted to, not break them up, not because he wanted to break them up, but he saw what they could do, that they had become smart to the business and that they were characters. Okay. So you saw Ms. Jones with the cat. You saw Tigress with the filthy animals. Kim was always with Paige. There was Stacy was a Nitro girl for a hot minute there.
Yep, she was. I think she won that contest.
Tell you about Kim with us. My other page, Wrestling Glory Days, has a bit of a history there. One of our admin posted the picture of Diamond Dallas Page covering her boobs with his hands, and it almost got us taken down about 5 or 6 years ago.
Good grief.
See, I wouldn't have used that picture. Something else would have been fine, but not.
I wasn't in charge at the time. That's not on me. That was Charles's time.
Yeah,
that's fair, but like that's still. I don't even want to have watermarks on mine. Like I'm getting rid of that. Like
it's a fun picture.
It is, but it's like that Francine poster they had, and everybody knows which one that is. I don't give a shit who you are. Like everybody knows the Francine poster. It's the most famous poster in the history of pro wrestling for women. Like you mentioned the Francine poster, everybody's going to know what I'm talking about.
Which one? I'll say this: I did not know until Scott Hall told me about it. I couldn't follow ECW. It was enough to follow WCW, but I can't remember how it happened. I'm talking to Scott backstage somewhere, and it might have been when we had the Public Enemy in, or Sandman had come in or something, and we were talking about ECW. And I said, I don't get to see them. Oh, you've got to find the poster of Francine that they put out.
Oh my God.
What was it? I'm not going to say what he said about it. That's just inappropriate, but it was what you think. And again, I can thank the late great Scott Hall for smartening me up to the Francine poster.
She actually thanked me one time because I posted something on Twitter. It's like a happy birthday message, and it was dumb because I don't try to chase. I'm actually terrible on social media. I really don't chase clout or anything like that, and like comment on people's like celebrity stuff and things like that. But one time I was just like, "Hey, happy birthday to like one of my favorite celebrity crushes," and she like actually posted it, like she heart reacted to it, like said commented on it, and I'm just like, this is one of the greatest moments of my life. Like it's just like in the back of my mind, I'm just like, she said something, she commented. Oh, I can't believe that just happened. And I'm just
that reminds me of a great gimmick idea that you just hatched right here, Dan. So you can have full credit. There needs to be a guy. Go find an indie guy that's really, really talented but unknown to the mass audience, and his whole gimmick is that he is consumed with social media. Every interview is social media. He's working on his phone. He comes to the ring. He stops in the match and works on his phone, and his name is Clout.
His name is Klaus. It's Clout.
And here he is, Clout. He can feud him with Danhausen.
Oh, that is funny. Yeah, that's all he's like cared about. Even though don't give him any ideas.
I got a tweet.
Don't give him any ideas because they're 3 steps away from doing that. Not what am I talking about?
Hold on, Danhausen. Let me do a TikTok while I hit you.
I'm like Bruce Willis. He's 2 steps away for being a full blown alcoholic. One step.
I love that movie more than all but the original.
It's 1 and 3 and nothing else. Don't talk to me about anything else in that series. Just 1 and 3 and get the fuck out of here.
I don't know. I am really partial to that line from the T-1000 in Die Hard 2 where the cop asks, "What do I look like?" And he pops up with a gun, "Like a sitting duck," and blows his friggin' head off. That is legitimately one of my favorite moments in action film history, and that's Robert Patrick before people know who the hell he is.
Wow. Oh, I did like 2 because Dennis Franz is in it. That was pretty good.
And then the 5th one, they went to Chernobyl and used a little injection to stop themselves being killed by radiation because that works.
Oh yeah, there was a fifth one. I forgot there was a fifth one.
There's a fifth one. The fourth one at least was successful. So whether you liked it or not, it was there and it did its job and made money. The fifth one, well, that's unfortunate.
Yeah, we're not going to talk about like that fourth one. I'm like, it's not necessary, but all right.
It's not necessary, but for some people they liked it. It's like it's not harming anyone to exist. The fifth one is harming people.
The fifth one doesn't exist.
Yeah, the fifth one causes pain.
It's like 2016 Ghostbusters and Frozen Empire. It doesn't exist.
No, don't mix the two up. Frozen Empire is not the 2016 Ghostbusters.
It doesn't fucking exist.
Okay.
We're not having this discussion, David. It doesn't exist in my world. Mac can back me up on it. It doesn't exist in my world.
Okay. I've not.
It's better than 2016. It's better than 2016, but that's already a low bar.
Yeah, the girls Ghostbuster, which is
low bar.
Which is unfortunate because now every time they try to make a girls movie, someone's like, "Well, it's going to be as bad as that Ghostbusters film."
No,
they don't need fair to the girls trying to make a film.
I didn't need a love angle relationship between her and between the teenage Ghostbuster and a ghost that's also a female. I didn't need that.
Yeah, we already had a girl and a ghost love story in Scary Movie 2.
Yeah, exactly. Also,
her panty said Wednesday, but it was actually Friday.
Just watch Ghost Whisperer. What was wrong with you people? Like, come on. We need this. Hand? Like, that's so funny.
I thought we were talking about Highlander 2.
We were. What a masterpiece that is.
Oh, God.
Actually, I was having a conversation.
One time. I don't even remember anymore.
I was having a conversation with a friend of mine today, and it was about the Dark Knight trilogy and how every day now I'm just like, that trilogy can kiss my ass. Like, those movies are not as good as they're not as.
The second one is really good. The first one's okay. The third one's got its points.
They're not that good.
I like the first one. I like the second one a lot.
Hey,
third one,
you wounded me with that.
Batman Returns is my favorite Batman, but Dark Knight is number 2.
No, I still love the one with Michael Keaton, that first one, Batman '89.
That's good, but
Batman Returns with Michael Keaton, and I hate to say this, but I'm probably like, and yeah, I'll put the second one up there, like the Dark Knight, but I kind of like Dawn of Justice, and I kind of like Dawn of Justice a little bit better, and I kind of like the Justice League with the Zack Snyder cut. And I'm sure I'm going to get hate for that, but it's the truth.
Oh, I got you beat there. You know which one I think is my second favorite? My first is Dark Knight. Perfect. My second favorite is The Batman with Robert Pattinson. I thought that was a terrific
I haven't seen that one. That's like the only one I haven't seen.
That one shocked me to my core how good it was.
I haven't seen Batfleck either. Never mind.
What happened to Dan?
I think you wounded him.
That's okay.
I think you might have wounded him.
We were still somewhere in this wrestling show talking about somebody in it.
So,
but I'm not kidding. I liked the Batman. I thought that was really, really underrated.
Edward Cullen is Batman.
I thought we were friends, Scott. I thought we were friends. I love the relationship that we had. I'm like, we're going to be close.
My favorite part of Harry Potter 4 is Edward Cullen getting killed.
You know what? I just bought this new house. I'm like, I'm going to have Scott over for dinner. Him and his wife. It's going to be great. Well, it's going to be perfect. We're going to be able to entertain, and people are going to come over for dinner and stuff like that. And then you had to come out with something like that. Now I'm just like questioning everything. I'm like questioning my existence right now. I'm like, you got to be kidding me right now. Okay, it's not that bad. What are we talking about?
Well, it's got to be better than Joker, too.
Scott has already served his time. He's already served his penance in life because he worked for WCW in 2000. So he's already earned his penance in life of like, I've already worked. Do you know what I worked with in 2000? Yes, Scott, I know. So
worked with that chick thriller, Mike Awesome.
Jesus Christ, that poor guy.
Yeah.
He was literally a killer in ECW, like literally killing people. And then it's just like, we're going to put him in a Partridge Family bus.
It looks like muscled up version of, shit. I never really watched that 70s show very much, so I can't remember the damn character's name, but he looked like one of those guys.
Yeah, I think it was
also, yeah.
not the one who not that guy, but
Not the one who's doing time.
yeah, not that guy,
No.
not that guy. The other one.
Narrows it down.
Yeah, I do, right? There's a couple of people on that show that could have been doing time. Anyways,
Good
but we're in our semi-main event, and instead of deciding, hey, we're going to have we're going to have the Giant, our world champion, in a world championship match, it's going to be the Giant and the Taskmaster up against Arn Anderson and that guy we're not supposed to talk about in 7 minutes and 59 seconds.
First, I just want to say off the bat, I understand why you'd have the match, I guess. Okay, no, I don't understand. Never mind. My issue is, forget all that bullshit. Having Benoit versus Taskmaster in another match where they almost kill each other would have been fine because they did it like 6-7 shows in a row anyway. And they would be doing it for 3 to 4 more after this. We didn't need a tag team match with the two of them. You just need Benoit, Taskmaster with a weapon, and us internalizing everything that happened in 2007 for a moment. So we don't think about it. That's all we needed. You didn't need a tag match with these guys. You could have done Arn versus the Giant as a singles match, and it would have been fine because the main event was going to overshadow it anyway. So you could have just had a really decent match out of it.
Yep, you could have.
And then Kevin Sullivan and Benoit, if they live through it, you have another memory. Because if you've seen those other matches, living through it is definitely doesn't always feel like it's on the table.
It's just and I understand there's a much bigger story at play, but you already have the Giant. He's coming off of back-to-back victories. I believe at Slamboree he beat Sting, and then he beat Luger at Great American Bash. So he's coming off back-to-back massive victories, and you have him in a tag team match, especially too if the plan is, bless you.
Yeah, very next show he's going against Hogan.
Very next show he's going up against Hogan. So instead of defending the title successfully, he's in a tag team match in a semi-main event of the show, of course. And I know, because we talked about it at the beginning of the program, how the undercard, really no one's going to remember it because of the fact of the main event is so significant. But it's still like a moment where you should be showcasing your world champion who's also in like his mid-20s. Wouldn't you agree, Scott?
Yeah, stop. Yes, I agree. However, I understand why they did it because they weren't going to swap the title, and any world championship match by all right should be the main event. And so I'm doing this just off the top of my head. I'm thinking that what their thinking was, we can't have a world title match because we're going to blow everything off and start the overarching angle that's going to take us through the next 2 years in the main. So if we put a world title match under the main, that devalues the title. So let's put the champion in a tag with with Kevin and 2 of the Horsemen that get it out of the way, and we'll build an angle out of that, which they did with Kevin and Chris. That's the only thing I can come up with. But otherwise, I agree completely that it was why put the title on him at all if you're not going to have him defend it on a pay-per-view. But if they decided all that I just went through, then it makes sense. Not that I'm not, but I don't know is the truth. I've never heard a story.
I think it would have been completely overshadowed had they done it, though. So in that context,
it was overshadowed anyway, so you got to bite a bullet somewhere.
True, but even as a world title, I'm saying I feel like it would have been overshadowed by what happened in the actual.
I mean, it was kind of overshadowed at Great American Bash because on that show, Nash and Hall puts Eric Bischoff through a table, and that's what people remember.
Yep.
And that's what people remember from that show, and not the world title match.
And the McMichael turn also.
Yes.
That was the other big angle that came from that. And they don't remember him beating Luger. They also, to be fair, they don't, the Slamboree moment against Sting, which at the time was being well documented and was like a big deal, that really wasn't considered like a big deal then, and it should have been, but it wasn't like considered big on TV because it was barely mentioned.
That's one of the weird things about Bash at the Beach '96, if you actually think about it. It makes all the previous WCW shows going back several months feel like they're not important parts of the story.
Non-existing.
Yeah.
Even though they're great, most, except for Uncensored, they're all pretty good shows. But they're all like, it's all like, I don't know. It's like Pantera before they did their thing, Cowboys from Hell. No, but they have 4 CDs, they have 4 albums before Cowboys from Hell that no one ever even thinks about.
That's
it's
yes.
like that.
No, you're 100% right. And so we have reached the point. We're at the beginning of, so this will also be the big clip, I think, of the week. This will be the one that kind of makes the internet rounds, because now we are going to talk about this. Is before we get to the main event spot, I do need to ask Scott the one of the big questions of the night.
Shoot.
The moments before the main event. What is the atmosphere in the back? But the first question you need to answer, what is now the feeling? So at 6:05, you had no idea. So at 8:30, 9 o'clock, whenever the show was, whenever this segment's happening, what is your opinion before bell time? Do you know yet? Do you have a suspicion? Nope. Is there backstage movement that you're seeing where it's just like, okay, they're doing something?
No, we still didn't know, the speculation like we talked about at the beginning, who's it going to be? Has anybody seen Piper? Has anybody seen Brett? Has anybody seen Warrior? Has anybody seen Sean? And we hadn't seen anybody. So we had kind of concluded that, and then how horrible would this have been? We had kind of concluded that it was going to be a Sting or Luger turn, and that was going to be it. And it was like, okay, well, if done right, this could be, what we had come up with just in the, as Disco always called it, catering talk. Because we would sit back in catering and talk about stuff at those big tables, was terrible. And since we had convinced ourselves that it was just going to be a heel turn by a baby face, they've been, Sting's never been a heel, except in, the early days in Memphis and UWF. So that'll work. Can he pull it off? We were long down the road of it was going to be one of those 3 guys turning heel, that the third man was already going to be in the ring, and it was going to go from 3-on-2 to 3-on-2, and instead of being a babyface advantage to a heel advantage. Never thought about Hogan.
And notice nobody ever says Savage on this. I think we all just assumed it wasn't happening with him.
No.
That was the weird thing, because it's like he was on where Luger and Sting, you can make the argument, of course they got to be on that team. But Savage, I would be sitting there and being like, sus. Because you're looking at it from the perspective of, 3 years earlier, 4 years earlier, he's the WWF champion. 3 years earlier, he's still in the company. He's the top, maybe 2 years earlier in 94, he's hosting SummerSlam. Yeah, he's more in a transitional role. He's not a full-time performer.
Great idea.
But 2 years before, he's in WWF, and it's just like, which is sooner than Hogan. Because Hogan left in 93, Savage left in 94, so there's still more of that. Why is he on Team WCW? And it would have made sense had he made the jump, but he didn't. And so, until, of course, early 97, when things at that point are just like, well, I guess we're giving it to everybody. But again, If it was Savage, it wouldn't have had the same impact. If it was Luger, wouldn't have had the same impact. If it was Luger, I think everybody would have been like, oh,
Again?
shit. Really? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
If it was Luger, it would have been like, oh. So
I'll tell you though. Yeah, it's not really possible, but he keeps mentioning Sean, which means people must have thought Sean showing up must have been like a small possibility. Like he's always like on the verge of getting fired anyway. But if it had actually been Sean that walked out, it wouldn't have been as big as Hogan, but that would have made some headlines.
Well, he was the current champion at that point, so it would have
Yeah,
been holy shit.
There was no way it was going to be Sean, but that's why that would have been just an incredible
Unless
debut.
he lost the title at some house show that didn't get reported or something. Because WWF has done house show title changes before.
If there was betting odds, who was the betting favorite for the if there was who was leading in the locker room, like as far as if they were doing the odds and the percentages. They were doing the odds and the percentages.
It would have been Sting or Luger.
Okay.
But David's right. You didn't hear a lot of there was not a lot of money going on Savage, but in the whole scheme of things, he should have been the favorite. Because at the time, Hogan's a baby face, and that building up to Hogan Savage would have been something they wanted, and they did, but in a different way.
They hadn't seen, and Hogan's kind of out of the spotlight because he hasn't been around for like 3 months.
Right.
So really, no one is he's not even on the tongue of most wrestling fans at that point.
Okay,
They're thinking,
hold up real quick. I was thinking about this. Hogan is not any normal wrestler in 1996 that anybody else is. So just sneaking Hogan into the WCW arena and pulling that off, that's got to be something because Hogan shows up anywhere in those days, it gets noticed. So getting him there.
So you guys don't see him at all.
Didn't know he was there.
Okay, no. So you don't see him at all.
That's a hell of an accomplishment.
Now, because I've heard
that was the norm.
That's Statue of Liberty, David Copperfield sneaking Hogan into a wrestling show. Is David,
I mean, yeah.
But unless you were working with Hogan or had a reason to interact with him, you wouldn't know sometimes if he were there or not until it was his time to come out. So,
do you believe
it wasn't that big of a shock?
Do you believe Kevin Sullivan's account of he stayed at Kevin Sullivan's house the night before because he was afraid that somebody was going to get to him and not do the turn? Like that, Kevin Sullivan has stated that Hogan stayed at his house the night before, so that way no one could, and there were people still trying to talk him out of doing it leading into that show.
If Kevin Sullivan said it, I believe it. So, I believe that. Kevin
those people were freaking stupid.
Yeah, there were.
The people who wanted to talk Hogan out of heel turning.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, it wouldn't have taken much. In the afterbirth of it, you learned that it wouldn't have taken a whole lot to talk him out of it. That he wasn't as gung-ho for it as in hindsight, he's probably going to claim credit for the idea, honestly. But it's come out since, and Eric's confirmed that they had Sting ready to do the turn. But when Hogan shows up and agreed to do it, so then they were changing booking on the fly, not changing all of it, but basically, okay, we're staying with Plan A.
Basically, they had a deleted scene in the can.
The brilliant idea of them starting just with Kevin Nash and Scott Hall. And then it's building the tension. It's building the tension. Because then it's just like, we don't need the third guy yet. And it's like, okay. Because I remember sitting there at home, and mind you, I'm watching this event because I'm 13 years old at the time and didn't have a pot to piss in and a wind to throw it out of. So I am watching it on scrambled cable, like I am watching on the Spice Channel. As an adolescent, I am watching.
I didn't know we cleared the Spice Channel back then. That's good.
Yeah, the WCW. So the WCW pay-per-view is on scrambled channel. So I am watching it like a transistor radio, and that's all I'm hearing is just like the broadcasters. And it's just like when you're hearing Hall and Nash and Mean Gene being like, how in God's name do you think you're going to be able to beat Team WCW with just the two of you? And then it's just like Hall and Nash is just like, don't worry, we'll do it. Don't worry. And then they systematically, they hold down Luger. Luger gets taken out by the Stinger Splash within like 2 minutes. And it's just a tag team match at this point. And then the tension is still beating. Like that, and then here comes Savage with the big comeback, the big hot tag, and Nash cuts him off. And then, lo and behold, in walks Terry Bollea, in walks Hulk Hogan, Tony Schiavone on the call, same thing with Bobby Heenan. And Bobby Heenan says, whose side is he on? Which, the problem and the thing that I don't criticize Bobby for it at all is the fact that this was consistent for Bobby Heenan for 20 years.
He hated Hogan as a character.
He hated Hulk Hogan as a character.
And he didn't change.
And that was always his consistency going back his time in the AWA when he was managing Nick Bockwinkel. It goes back as far as that. Not just the Heenan family days when he was trying to take the championship from him in 1986 and 1987. This goes back further. So I didn't have a problem with this, and I didn't see this as him second guessing or trying to plant the seed. It was Bobby Heenan being Bobby Heenan. Hogan goes in, rips off the shirt, and Scott, when you see him walk down, at that point, do you know?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's no other reason for him to be out there. So when he showed up, and I wasn't at Gorilla, I wasn't between the dressing room and Gorilla. I was over with the internet guys, Jeremy Borash and Bob Ryder and those guys, and so I didn't know until we saw it on the monitor. And we were like, good. This is huge. And it became, this is the first time Hogan's been a heel in 15, 16 years. And, this is going to pop. This is going to be huge. And, we were all aboard. The minute we saw him walk out, the first time I saw him walk out was the first time anybody did on the monitor on the show, because we were stuck back in a corner, and, it was obvious it was him. They weren't going to bring him out to make it a 4-on-2. It wasn't. And so we knew. And as far as what Bobby said, I agree that Bobby's character was to hate Hogan. And in hindsight, I don't think he should have said what he said, because there were ways he could have gotten over how much he hated Hogan without planting that seed. And but in the whole scheme of things, it didn't impact how over that angle was and how over the NWO became. It meaningless in the whole scheme of things. So I don't think he should have said that. There were things he could have said that would have furthered his own character of being anti-Hogan no matter what, without stooging off that he was the third man. But and at the end of the day, it made no difference at all. The pop would have been just as big. The next 2 years would have been just as huge.
It was you feel like that the leg drop was the kill. It was on Savage. So the old rival kicks in, and it's just like his brother, that mentality. And here is,
they've been kind of disagreeing feud wise since about the show after World War III, 95.
Yes.
They've been sort of disagreeing since then.
It had been building for a while. There was
a little bit of an undercurrent. Nobody knew it was going to go this way.
Nobody knew it was going to go this way. We expected that there may have been a Hogan and Savage separation, not to the extent of Hulk Hogan aligning himself with two men, the outsiders, if you will, from World Wrestling Entertainment. And because everybody at the time was thinking that those guys were under WWE contract, going down.
This was like entertainment. I thought it was a federation.
Yes, well, right, but for copyright reasons. But no, it was two of the coolest guys from WWE at that point, because here you have Razor Ramon and Diesel now making the jump and their real names to WCW, working with that turncoat Hulk Hogan, who's always been aligned with WWF anyways. That's why we've been booing him for the last 2 years. That's why it's like Hogan only got like 100% cheers if they were in Florida or if they were in like Florida, because he would go to the Carolinas.
They did a Detroit show where he got pretty good, but for the most part,
the Detroit show, I think that was him and Flair, which was like a 50-50 crowd.
You know, if they'd gone to Canada, they probably would have gotten a lot more cheers for Hogan, because
they probably would have.
Not a lot of beaches in Canada. I don't.
No, there isn't.
Yeah, but Canada is also the ones that turned Hogan back face in 2002.
They did. Scott, what is the? Do you hear any like loud audibles backstage, like after it's done? Like, are the boys just like, holy shit, like clapping and that?
Oh yeah,
a lot of
no, absolutely.
Okay,
not so much clapping and carrying on. A lot of the guys had gone. You know, there was no hard and fast rule that you had to stay.
Oh, right.
They didn't stay for this.
Most did, but not everybody. Okay. There were a lot of guys that showed up and didn't work, so they didn't stay. I mean, they're not just there to watch. They're there to work, and if they're not working, they're going back home or going back to the hotel or whatever. I know that, you know, when Scott and Kevin came in, they knew they couldn't call them Diesel and Razor Ramon. They knew that. They weren't going to call them the Diamond Stud and Vinny Vega. They weren't going to do any of that. But what they wanted to do, or Oz, oh, for God's sakes, yeah.
Hogan, Scott Hall, and Oz, NWO.
What they wanted to call them were Big Daddy Cool and the Bad Guy. Oh, that was going to be their name.
I feel there's a lawsuit.
Then they found out that those had been copyrighted. So if you watch, and we're 6 weeks in from when Scott busted up the, what was it, Hugh Morris and Mike Enos match or whatever it was on Nitro.
It was Mike Enos and the Baller or something? Or the Prowler or something?
They still hadn't given him a name.
No.
Because they were trying to work it out with legal. And they had finally decided before this that Gene would just call them, you know, Hall and Nash. This man Hall and this man Nash, as he said in the promo that, you know, was in the afterbirth. Of what
Scott Hall and Kevin Nash is actually a really good sounding name, and it's bizarre to me that both companies struggle with calling them anything but that.
No, agreed.
Hall and Nash sounds like a 1970s like folk duo.
To me, it sounds a little bit more.
It
like
always sounded to be like Starsky and Hutch.
Yeah,
I was just going to say a buddy cop thing.
Starsky and Hutch.
Remember, this is about the same time Nash Bridges was on the air, so Nash kind of gives you a pop feeling.
True.
And Steve Austin was a guest on Nash Bridges, not Kevin Nash.
Someone taking out somebody with a piece with a foot-long sub sandwich or a piece of bread.
When they did that promo, when Gene's in the ring, and you know, and they ended up throwing all that stuff out of it, which was just amazing.
Amazing visual.
That was perfect. That Hogan's promo may have been the best promo that he's ever done in his life.
Felt like he was actually mad at these people.
Yeah. You know, and straight up,
revenge.
Ask anybody in the business. Usually, the most over baby face is a natural heel or a real heel. They're an asshole to work with and not a nice person. And Hogan was that. So Hogan was finally getting to be himself when he cut that promo. But the only thing he screwed up
Dan's over here
was, and I heard this when I call my friends back in Atlanta. The Atlanta boys, my best friends, were all huge fans of everything to do with wrestling. They didn't understand what the World Organization of Wrestling was. And I said, and I didn't know what that meant, because I didn't know the whole storyline, how the thing was going to play out. And so I'm watching it, and I just didn't even think about what Hogan said. But Hogan said, this is the new World Organization of Wrestling. And
Yes.
new sounded like just, as to replace the old one. This is the World Organization of Wrestling.
It's like the one time new worked in wrestling.
The WOW, the WOW. Is that what you're going with? And, the way he did it, instead of saying the New World Order, which was, the thing George Bush Sr. said, and it goes back to, the 50s and the
Ministry used it in the themes. Ministry used it as a sound clip.
But instead of saying this is the New World Order, he said this is the new World Organization of Wrestling, and it really he just stepped on himself trying to. And I wish that had gone a little better, but otherwise that promo was perfect.
Nash
also
mentioned that he hated the fact that he threw the referee out because he felt like that the referee should have done an official count. Which
that's valid.
It's a very valid point, because he's just like, we never officially got the pin because, Hogan covered him, but he didn't get like the referee to count. He's like, don't throw the referee out. First thing Hogan does, throws the referee out. What are you doing? That was, it felt like, you're right, that Hogan was just saying this from the heart. Like,
Yeah.
it was
I said angry. I think this was
like,
revenge. I think Hogan was mad at the way the fans had been with him since he showed up in '94, because he felt like he should be. I wonder if Hogan felt like when he came to WCW that he should be held as a hero, because the buy rate doubled when he showed up in Bash '94, and the ratings went up, and they built Nitro, all this crap. Hogan must have been like, I'm the hero. You should be loving me and kissing my freaking wrist, you sons of bitches. So I'm going to tell you what I think about you, rotten sons of bitches. That's what I think that was.
You're exactly right. And it was the same thing when they did, and I think we did a show on this, was the other bash with him and Vince Russo. That was the real Hogan. This thing that we saw.
I don't think did we do Bash 2000?
We might have. Have
we done that?
Well, no, we did.
I think we did Great American
Bash. We did Havoc 89.
We did Havoc 89. A few others.
Oh, that was great.
Yeah.
Anyway, but yeah, that was the real Hogan. This was the real Hogan. It's not say your prayers, take your vitamins, and hanging and banging and all that.
No, let's go fuck yourselves.
Yeah.
It's about me, brother.
Say your prayers and go fuck yourselves, you sons of bitches.
It's about me. Oh, you want to start a union? Not for me, brother. Not doing it. Not doing it. No, not. Shut up, Jesse. I don't want to hear about it, brother.
Vince, he's got a deal with Sega. Don't we have a deal with Nintendo?
I got to work on top, brother. That's how this goes. You
I
don't
would have loved to
understand.
have seen Jesse Ventura versus Hogan. And Hogan has a face.
Oh,
If Ventura was
those
not
damn
hurt.
blood clots. Those damn blood clots in his legs. Now
He ain't got time to bleed.
I ain't got time to bleed. I'm wondering if Ventura, am I going to go visit Hogan? Am I going to go visit? You think
nice.
I'm not going to his funeral? That's not happening. I can't trust him. I can't trust the man because he turned against me. Well, it's not as good as Karrion Kross.
Oh well, nobody's got that one.
It's not as good as Will Sasso, but it's like it's a great value version of Jesse Ventura. Like, I'm a Navy SEAL. I'm a governor.
Well, we should have Days of Our Lives or something.
You should vote for me to be president instead of Donald Trump.
Right.
Yeah, David, I feel, yeah.
Okay.
David, I feel for you these days. Like I'll say that.
Oh, good.
The fight, the endless fights that I see you on Facebook with them. Like, oh, this poor gentleman.
Short version, I post things so people can
post
get pissed off and
facts.
argue about it.
Post
I
facts.
post facts, but I do it in a way that deliberately.
Yes.
It's basically getting heat. Okay,
Yes,
I know. I
heat.
sound like a fucking mark saying that, but let's be honest. And it's the same thing I do in the pro wrestling world, except it's politics. I say this shit, and everyone's like, "You mother."
You know,
I just watch it with popcorn and laugh.
I hadn't done one of the.
I worked for the feds, and one of the we have this book that we go by. It's the canons of ethical behavior for the judiciary. That's who I work for, was the judicial branch. And you do not violate any of the ethical canons. You just don't. Because if you do, you're out the door. The end. You get no wiggle room. And one of them is you don't engage in partisan politics at all. That's why you don't ever hear a whole lot about politics from the federal judiciary. You just really don't. Every now and then a judge or the Supreme Court will do something like, well, it's just politics. Well, that's also judges in the Supreme Court. They're kind of at the top of the food chain, can do what they want. But the rest of us, you don't. And I used to teach that stuff at the academy. And they're like, can I put a sign in my yard? Nope. Well, my wife owns half the house. Can she put a sign on her half? Nope. Can she put a sticker on her car? Nope. It's no
The only thing
politics.
you do is vote and shut up about it.
That's exactly right. That's what I would tell them. You can do two things. You can register if you have to register as a Republican or an independent or a Democratic voter, and you can vote. That's it. You can't do anything else. And that was
Military.
I didn't have a choice. That's the career I chose. But it's been the best thing that's ever happened because I detest politics and I don't follow it, and I just
when
I was in the army, we were lectured more than once that we don't make our political feelings known, whether we're pro this or anti that.
Right.
I work for a municipality. Not going to say who, but I was meeting with the superintendent today, actually, and he found out that I did a podcast, and somebody was showing him clips immediately.
This podcast?
This, yes. And the sense of dread that immediately I was showing him, like, oh no.
Is it one of the times I said some shit?
It might have been. I was afraid it was one of the times I said some shit. Because, I'm just sitting there, and I'm like, and he's just like, it's okay. You're talking about something that's kind of minute. Like, it's not something that is like real hot button issues here. Like, you're complaining about Roman Reigns and CM Punk instead of, things that actually kind of matter.
Ouch.
So it was like, but it was, he said it in a nice way. It's context.
Yeah.
He said it in a way where it was like, he's like, what you do is really, really good. But at the same time, it's like, it's not controversial. Like, you're not talking about politics.
Little does he know.
Exactly. Exactly. And especially now, he's just going to be sitting here, even though we're not really showing our hands, folks. We're just, we're just mentioning.
Yeah, that's why I was giving you side eye with what you were about to say.
I was just, because I appreciate someone that fights the good fight, my friend.
I'm just saying I get death threats for enough as it is in the pro wrestling world and the posts I make.
You were right about CM Punk, though, the other day when you were just like, yeah, the reason why he's great is because people think he sucks. If people think you suck, that means you're great. And it's like, it's a good point, though. Like, it is. And, it's the same.
That's a man after my own heart. I could walk into a room and half the people hate me and half the people like me. And CM Punk's the same way.
True.
Yes, and that's how I feel about myself sometimes. It's like
just spell the name right. That's what those kind of guys, at least in the wrestling business, would always say. If half the room hates me, half the room loves me, then I'm doing everything right. Just make sure you spell my name correctly. The end.
I was mentioning to my wife a few weeks ago because I'm like, I'm a heel and you know it because she works at the same place that I do at one of our buildings, and everybody thinks I'm a nice guy because she's ruining my reputation and telling everybody about how nice I am outside of work. And I just keep looking at her and I'm just like, you're killing my vibe. You're killing my heat. She's like, but you're a baby face. Everybody knows. I'm like, I'm not a fucking baby face. I'm a goddamn heel and you know it. God damn it.
That's the best Tony Schiavone I've ever heard in my life.
I don't know if that's a compliment or anything like that. Jesus.
Just work on the accent a little bit.
Well, yeah, I'll have to go more like Southern a little bit. Like, hey,
little Southern Virginia.
I'll give him credit though. He isn't as bad. Like JR gets shit on a lot, and I love JR, but it's like I like Tony a little bit more only because of the
on AEW. Tony's better.
He's so much better, and he's also doesn't have that Southern drawl. And plus, what I like about Tony is I'm sure Tony Khan told Tony Schiavone that, hey, don't worry, it's not Turner, it's not 1999, it's not 2000. Don't worry about shit. And I think that kind of has changed because he really had one of the best second acts in pro wrestling history. Yeah. Because his work in AEW has been exceptional.
WWE wouldn't hardly give him the time of day.
Because they're dumb.
I know.
Hey guys, talk amongst yourself. I got to take a call right quick. I'll be right back.
No problem. Sure. Yeah, but no, it's just the night and day, and they kept putting these people out there like Todd Grisham or
the coach,
Josh Matthews, or the coach, instead of just like, why don't you call Tony Schiavone? Oh, Josh Matthews is good. No, Josh Matthews sucks. He sucks.
Actually, apparently they did call Tony, but they didn't actually follow through.
Well, I heard they called him. I heard they called him once they found out that AEW was starting, and that's when they finally started to call him.
No, I don't remember what show it was on. It was some podcast, but they apparently brought in Tony in like 2004, but they didn't even they didn't have him showcase anything that he could do or anything. He was just kind of like, they just kind of like talked to him and didn't do anything with it, and he just went the fuck back home.
Yeah.
Something like that. I mean, hell, Mike Tenay would have been better than some of these assholes, and I don't think I respect Mike Tenay, but I don't think he was as good as Tony or JR.
Scott Hudson would have been great.
Him, so,
when Scott gets back, we got to mention the fact that Scott would have been great. They should have called Scott. I mean, I know they brought him in for that shot, that one night in Tacoma we always talk about, but that should be a movie that's directed by like Tarantino. One Night in Tacoma, and they just talk about the WCW Invasion night on Raw. Just that one segment.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. I haven't seen that in a while. Was that when they had the Booker T versus Buff Bagwell match?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And that was they had
that was
Scott
definitely
Hudson
their worst encounter that was definitely their worst match together on a major show.
And Buff Bagwell had heat a mile long going into that match that did not dissipate from like moment one. Because then he missed a show, I think the following weekend. He missed the house shows, and he had his mommy. He had his mommy call that he couldn't make it. Jim Ross was like, I'm not talking to you again. You want to talk to me about other things, you can call me, but I'm not. If your son needs to talk to me, he needs to call me. I'm never talking to you again about your son.
He's back.
Hey, guys. Sorry about that.
He had asked you a question about some night in Tacoma or something.
Thanks. Now I really am sick. No. My wife had to drive to South Georgia tonight, and she just got there and was buzzing me and let me know she made it. So
that's good.
But you were talking about Tony. I know we've talked about this a lot every time I'm on, but that final Nitro, when we drove back from Panama City back to Atlanta, so it was like 6 hours, and he was going to call the WWF and see about getting back in with them, and found out a couple of days later when I hooked back up with him again that they gave him "we don't have any availabilities. Thank you for your interest in our company."
Yeah.
And so then he had to stop and regroup. And Tony, he and his wife, they had at the time, well, they still have, 5 kids?
Yeah.
And they were much younger, obviously. And so he had to support a family. So he, went to work for WSB, the big radio TV conglomerate there in Cox Broadcasting in Atlanta. Went to work for the University of Georgia. So he obviously ended up on his feet. But that was kind of spooky because I never left my shoot job. I just went back to work the next day like I was gonna anyway. But they were scrambling around, and it was a scary time for Tony.
Did they ever try to bring you in? I mean, aside from one night in Tacoma, I mean, did they ever actually try to WWF bring you in at all?
No.
That's a dumbass move because
they
you'd have been better than Todd Grissom.
Yeah.
Thanks.
No, you'd be good.
The whole story is they brought me in, and I somewhere up there is an hour-long episode of Superstars from that week with me doing play-by-play and Michael Hayes doing color.
Well, that's a combo.
That was wonderful.
Dude. Hey, what's going on?
Now, it'd have been great to have you because, honestly, outside of Jim Ross and Jerry Lawler, their commentary team in the early 2000s was kind of not great.
Yeah, and then they get Joey, who's in for my money in the top 3 of all time, and screw him over.
They shit all over him, by God.
Yeah.
Except JBL that one night.
I love stories about JBL getting his shit kicked in.
That is one of the greatest stories in the history of the industry. The fact
if you don't love Joey Styles after hearing that, then you're just you have no brain.
I also thought his move for the I forget, it's this move where you jump on a guy's back and you got your knees in your back and you fall back on your back, and they called it something else, but he always called it. But he always called it the backcracker, and I always thought that was a better name.
That is a good name.
He's like the backcracker. It just sounded better.
I think the backstabber worked though too because I mean that should have been also something that move should have been created by somebody else that was turning on somebody, and that should have been their finisher.
If it had been you instead of Michael Cole on SmackDown and Big Show's coming out, I would hope you wouldn't have spent 5 minutes telling me about the size of that.
That's a big slow.
I wouldn't mention it. It's kind of
like, it's like And
if you have to mention how tall a 7-foot guy is,
did you know he's 7 foot? Did you know that he's 7 foot tall?
I would have. How many weeks would it have taken Scott to quit if Vince was yelling at him? Now, when Roman comes out,
that's
Scott,
exactly what it took.
When Roman comes out, I need you to say, "Here comes the big dog!" Yeah, the big dog. Yeah, Scott, say it. Say it, Scott. Say it. Say the fucking word, Scott. Say it, or you're fucking fired. Say it right now. Say the big dog, Scott. Say it right now.
Fire me, I'm already fired.
Or it's like any match with any special stipulation at all, he's going to be like, if it's like
Scott,
a false
sell the pay-per-view. Sell the pay-per-view, Scott.
You guys know, this is a false count anywhere. By the way, during this match, false count anywhere in the arena. Also, during this match, false count anywhere.
Scott, this match is brought to you by Slim Jims. Make sure you say that.
That's right.
All right. Man wipes.
Taste the rainbow.
Yeah, taste the rainbow with twins.
I haven't said this in a while, but my favorite Vince McMahon story ever from Bruce Pritchard is when he came up with the idea of Jacqueline.
Here we go.
And showing it, and he's excited. He just want to go, chocolate titties.
Come on, again with this.
Chocolate titties.
Again.
Vince, according to Pritchard, that was his entire excitement about Jacqueline being topless on pay-per-view. That.
Jesus, he better be careful. She will kick his ass.
She will.
She could probably kick a lot of people's ass.
Yeah, but she definitely will kick Vince's ass.
Yeah.
I remember when she debuted, I was like, oh shit, she could kill people. She is scary. In a good way, though.
Yeah.
I saw her. I don't think she wrestled in Japan, but I saw her in with Inoki in some kind of like tribute thing, and he was slapping like 100. He was slapping like 100 or 200 wrestlers, and apparently she was one of them. It was like a line of people being slapped. It might have been
I remember that.
I remember that.
Inoki with his. That was so weird.
It's an honor to be slapped by Inoki.
Is it?
I guess it is for them.
Is it?
It is for them. We're Americans. We don't think like that. But for them,
I understood he fought Ali. I get it, but come on now. Like if Gunther's going to stand there and
that face that Ali made when that guy just started coming at him with the legs because he wasn't allowed to use his hands. Ali's like, oh shit, I've stepped in it now.
Well, and then it's like, am I going to go up there with Gunther and just take a chop to the chest? Like, are you kidding? I don't have a death wish. I'm not going to do that. Like, oh, but it's a sign of respect if you get. No, I'm not going to do that. Not a mark. I don't need that.
The worst chop has still Benoit because if he doesn't like you, he does nails in and he scratches your chest. You watch those matches he has, nails in, the mother.
Yeah, well, I mean.
Anyway.
What do you expect with that dude? Like,
poor Randy Orton in that best of 7 that he wrestled 4 of when Booker T got hurt. By the end of on the 4th match they had, Randy Orton's chest was as red as a heavy man getting ready to have a heart attack. It was bad.
Benoit was taking it out on the fact that he had to lose to him at SummerSlam 04. Like, he was probably still
lose
mad
to him
about
there
that.
too because Orton won that.
Yeah, he did. He did win that.
But
he got his pound of flesh out of that one.
Yikes!
Yeah,
but
I mean, it's the truth,
we need
though. We need to wrap up.
Yeah, that's the thing.
We do. Okay.
Wrap it before we tap it.
Well, yeah. I mean, I feel like we've talked about everything else tonight, including the show that we were supposed to. But the historical significance, again, cannot be understated.
I do have a question for him.
Yes.
Okay, Scott. Scott, on the very next day, your very next WCW show, whether it's Nitro or something else that you're doing, what was the atmosphere like the day after that show?
We knew.
No, I mean like the atmosphere. What was the atmosphere like the day after?
Night and day.
Yeah.
We went into that thing thinking, okay, well, when's the next? Yeah, another Dungeon of Doom filming day coming up on Thursday. We'll have to rebuild the set. We didn't expect anything different. Scott and Kevin were obviously, over like crazy just that quick, but we didn't see anything,
So you weren't going out and buying a new house because you knew there was more money coming?
No. Nobody figured that out. But the next day, yeah, everybody knew that a heel Hogan with Scott and Kevin, especially after the promo and the build to that pay-per-view, everybody knew that was going to be something special. Nobody doubted at all. Everybody was on board. Nobody was second-guessing anything at all. Everybody knew.
Were you shocked to hear that the logo was actually created at Disney?
Not really.
Yeah,
some Disney animator, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was an animator at the MGM Studios that actually came up with the logo for the NWO, which is mind-boggling to me. The fact that Disney came up with the NWO logo. It's like, really, you just brought our dream. Like, even they have outreach to wrestling fans and just like, see, we've given to you too. We've given to you. Like,
I would like until that tipping point, that point of terminal velocity, which was somewhere in 98.
Starcade,
But
97.
yeah, Stargate 97, the Hogan Sting thing. But when 98, when they started the Wolf Pack and all that, I would defy anybody to say what went wrong with the NWO. I mean, from that beginning that we talked about at this show until it wasn't good, everything, the shirts, the vignettes, the characters, how they took over every show. I mean, the more stuff that got thrown in the ring, the more we knew it was over. You didn't see cops running around or security stopping people from throwing stuff for that reason.
Yeah. And to be fair, and I'll argue this real quick, even in 98, when everything seems to be going one way, if the executives just simply got out of the way, I think WCW probably would have survived even then. Even if things just got progressively worse in 99, I think they still had a pretty good shot.
They were still drawn in 99 too.
I mean, they have better ratings on their last day than any wrestling company has now.
That's true.
Correct. That's true. And
hell, when they got
people
canceled,
always we used to always hear like, well, you couldn't survive the end of the NWO. Well, the end of the NWO was Goldberg.
Yep.
And that was, selling out the Georgia Dome.
Oh yeah,
across the
40,000,
street,
something like that.
44,000.
Yeah, crazy amount of people.
On a Monday.
So, we survived
less than a
the
week.
NWO just fine.
Probably one of the biggest drawing shows in the United States history, as far as wrestling goes, that isn't WWF.
And considering the fact too that they literally announced that he was the number one contender with like less than a week, and they filled that building.
I mean, the fact is, when one of these days we're just going to have to do like the last WCW Nitro and really just get this out of our system.
Scott? I have to ask this question.
Shoot.
The night that Goldberg won, the night that Goldberg beat Hogan, right. Was there still backstage? Was there still kind of like Hogan's going to fuck him over?
No.
Okay.
I mean, Goldberg is not nearly as tough as he thinks he is, but on his worst day, he could take care of himself if Hogan tried to screw him over in the ring.
Right.
Now, if you mean would Hogan go and talk to Vince and, talk to Eric or whoever was in charge and try to talk his way out of losing the title, I don't know about that. But as far as would he agree to something and then try to, Fabulous Moolah, Wendy Richter, Goldberg, no, Goldberg could have taken care of himself. And I would bet the farm somebody had smartened Goldberg up to that.
Well, I heard Bischoff says that Hogan's idea was to lose to Goldberg.
Of course it was.
If it's great, it's Hogan's idea.
To do Rocky, what was he in? 2?
Rocky 3, yeah.
I just watched it like a few days ago. And
it was his idea to, go against Andre. It was his idea to form the NWO. Everything was his idea.
Everything was his idea, brother.
His idea. Metallica was his idea.
At the time, working, 375 days a year or whatever BS that was about.
That was almost the base.
Well, that was 400 days a year when I worked Japan, brother, because of the time zone.
What an idiot.
Damn.
There's so many people. So many people. Dan Bynum, Scott Hudson. There's so many people that have worked for wrestling companies in the past that if, they've come across, maybe dealt with Hulk Hogan at one time or another. And, it's never, nice. He's a good guy. He was a great guy. I liked him. We had beers together. The
only person who's probably going to say mostly nice stuff about Hogan is probably Jimmy Hart.
Jimmy loves him. Eric did.
Nash.
Eric would say nice things probably.
He still does sometimes.
Yeah,
I think he and Brutus had a falling out, and they never patched things up.
They had a big one. I know Piper and Hogan had their issues, but he told Russo in an actual shoot that you're not a pimple on Hogan's ass. So there's definitely ranks.
Yeah. Wow.
Well,
shit.
I think we are headed towards the closing hour for us here on the program. I do want to give everybody, though, a kind of a last words about the show or anything as far as the inception of the New World Order. Like I said, it almost feels like this was the New Testament for professional wrestling, this show.
It does.
Yes.
Everything changes after that.
Everything changes. It literally is like
wasn't
the big
there
bang.
an ECW show that was called The Night Everything Changed or something like that?
The night the line was crossed, which took place
That's
in
right, that's
1994.
right.
The first verifiable triple threat match that I've been able to locate.
In the United
There
States,
might
yes.
be more. I think there's more, but I don't know if the earliest one that I can find in the United States.
And it's also, I mean, it hasn't held up. It's good. It's not great, but like it's good. I wouldn't say it's great, but no. This to me, I feel like is kind of the New Testament of professional wrestling. Nothing is the same after this. I feel like it closes one door and opens a completely different other. A much better era in pro wrestling, and also another thing with the Monday Night Wars. It's like from this point on, it's like even the NFL is starting to look over its shoulder towards professional wrestling because of this. Like that is, and it's a legitimate. This is a legitimate thing. The NFL was concerned about the NWO.
They were losing by 97, 98. It was the NFL that was having ratings drops when running against wrestling instead of the other way around. Didn't last very long. But
It was
a
unheard
couple
of.
years there.
Like for a little bit there. It's like, but the NWO was now causing problems in real sports because the NFL, who owned Monday nights for ages, were now looking over, and they were on network television on ABC. They were now having to think about, the third man? What does that mean? Why is everyone watching wrestling? What the hell's going on? We're the NFL, for Christ's sake. What do you mean Hogan turned heel? What? Scott, I have one more. I know I have a million questions, but it's another one that just popped into my head.
Please.
Because we just had recently the passing of Ted Turner since we put on the program.
Yes.
Did you have any run-ins with Ted? Because I'd like to think that Ted, like during the inception of the NWO, may have come backstage with like an NWO shirt on and like thumbs up people.
I don't remember that. I met him a couple of times, but he wasn't around a whole lot. You got to remember the Turner Sports Empire, the Turner Empire, was vast,
Right?
And he
With the
was
Braves, the Hawks.
Yeah, I mean they owned everything in the world, and Ted at some point decided that he didn't want to be as hands-on as he used to be. So you would find Ted he owned like I'd throw out a crazy 10,000 acres of land in Montana, and he owned a 5,000 acre ranch in South Georgia and North Florida, and he owned 8,000 acres in Arizona. He was just always at one of his properties. He didn't come to Braves games or the WCW shows anymore.
He was what you're describing sounds like he was disengaging at this point a little bit.
Yeah, because they didn't need him. He had built it up, and he just got the money.
Trusted that AOL wouldn't screw it up somehow. He was wrong.
Yeah, they did. Yeah. But when AOL merged with Time Warner, when Turner merged with AOL, that was bad enough. But Ted still had power. But when Turner AOL merged with Time Warner, he was gone. Out. He had no more power. He had all the money in the world, but he had no power.
And what an innovator that guy was, considering the fact that he was behind CNN. He bought a lot of these intellectual properties like Hanna-Barbera and then was just like, I'm going to create a network based on cartoons, which is like, that to me is another thing. Because it's like when I was doing kind of like a retrospective on him, I'm like, well, like, it's not just wrestling for some of us. I said, if you watch Adult Swim or you watch anything like on Cartoon Network, it's because of Ted.
Yep.
And Ted changed the game.
And they destroyed that now that he's no. When they destroyed that now that he's no longer influencing in the industry.
So it's like you got to give him an assist for Rick and Morty. Like, it's like it's everything that like has been really cool in the last half a century is for pop culture. A lot of it can be attributed to Ted, and that is to me is. I think Jim Cornette said it best. He's just like, Ted was a cool billionaire. He bought sports teams. He slept with like A-list celebrities. And then there was Vince McMahon, who was just a pissed off guy from South Carolina that grew up and took it out on everybody.
Yep. Took it out on wanted revenge on the world. I think it was the exact words that he said.
Yeah, that was what he said. He's just like, wanted revenge on the world. And it's
if
just
you did a retrospective on Ted, then you will remember this story. But my favorite, my favorite Ted Turner story was when he owned the Braves. This would have been like in 75, 76. And he fired the manager.
Yes.
And became the manager of the Braves. And they let him do it for like 2 games, and then Major League Baseball said, no owners can manage the team. But he shows up in the dugout. He's not a baseball manager. He doesn't know the bunt sign and how to do a shift and all this other. But he showed up and he managed the team. They lost, but that's just so Ted. And he was he won the America's Cup yacht race.
Yeah.
How cool is that? I mean, he just did the coolest stuff.
He made an entire cartoon show just to riff on all the billionaires he didn't like. That's what Captain Planet actually is.
I know. It's hilarious.
It's a riff track, essentially.
Have you seen the Robot Chicken take on it?
I have not.
Oh, it's hilarious. If you could ever get Robot Chicken Captain Planet, it's hysterical. Because it's Ted Turner dressed up as Captain Planet going around and just taking on it's hilarious. It's absolutely hysterical.
The image is great enough.
Yes, just him painting his face in the Captain Planet, you're just like, what is he doing? But it's just
you didn't hear Ted do a whole lot of media in the last. Let's see, he just passed in the last 35 or 40 years. Yeah. You didn't hear Ted a lot, but living in Georgia in the 70s and to the mid 80s, you didn't not hear him. I mean, he was on everything. And I remember it being little and hearing Ted Turner talk, that to do a Ted Turner impersonation, just talk. You don't have to have a Southern accent, because he was from Ohio. He didn't have a real thick Southern accent. I didn't have an accent at all, but just talk normally and say every third word. And that's a Ted Turner impersonation.
That Bischoff did the same thing.
Really?
He would do the same thing. He did the same thing on a DVD that WWF did, where he was just like, Eric, and so I remember. Yep. I remember hearing people talk about that was the impression of Ted Turner. He just add after every third word.
Every third word. No real impersonation. You couldn't tell it other than it was just If I'm going to do a Ted Turner impersonation, that was it.
One of my favorite things that we would talk about in the wrestling circles in the late 90s and early 2000s. Ted is 0 for 3 against New York guys, because he lost the Yankees twice as a Braves owner, and then he lost to Vince in the WWF war. So it's
I give him a pass on that, because he was out of the company by the time.
Yeah, but he was
largely out.
They did eat shit against the Braves, so I mean, especially that first one. If you take 2 New York, you have no excuse on losing that series.
But I say this: if you walk up to Vince McMahon and you say to him that Ted Turner is the reason you became a billionaire, that man might attack you.
Yeah, he might.
But he's also not wrong.
When we were talking about when I brought up Ted, when we were kind of eulogizing him a few weeks back, I'm like, that whole thing was completely one-sided, because I don't think Ted gave a fucking shit about Vince. I don't think he cared. He didn't.
not.
He went to bed every single night, and the last thought was that entered his mind was not Vince McMahon. But he didn't think about Vince McMahon for a second. But
Depending
I
on what year it was,
guarantee
it was
you,
Jane Fonda.
I guarantee you, Vince thought about him every single night when he went to bed for about a 5-year period.
That motherfucking Ted trying to kill my business.
For 5 years. It was probably longer because all the shit that happened in '84. So it probably was like a 15-year thing, and it was all in his fucking head. He's against me. They're all against me. I'll show them. I'm Vince McMahon, damn it.
Yeah, Vince McMahon is almost like a Batman villain in real life with no Batman.
He's Mr. Burns.
Okay.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, that's fair. I can go with that one too.
I agree.
He's
Mac
a
and I
crazy.
talked about it years ago.
I mean,
He's Mr. Burns.
one of our admin on our team has a psychology degree, and she was telling me how Vince McMahon is one of the most fascinating people she's ever read from a psychological point of view.
Oh, he's a sociopath.
He's more than that. He is more than that. That is just a piece of him. I think he's one of those rare psychosocials.
Like anybody
And narcissist, and God knows what else, and borderline personality. Who fucking knows?
Oh, you want to kill me? Go ahead, Shane. You don't have the balls to do it, but go ahead, try it. You want to stab me in the heart and take the company from me? You won't. But try it. Try it. See what happens.
That one, Vince McMahon is old as shit, and this is like 2020 or 2019. It's right before COVID, actually. It was like 2019. And this guy is worried about taking some bump, and Vince McMahon is like, really? Really? He just goes off to the side, and he just falls down like 10 feet.
Okay.
Like, that's how you do it.
All right, so I can attest to who he was talking about. It was Gronk. He was afraid to land in the airbag. And you know why Gronk was afraid to lay in the airbag like that? Because he was fucking made of glass. And it was frustrating because he's the greatest tight end I've ever seen in my life, but he barely played for the Patriots. We lost some Super Bowls because he wasn't healthy.
Football, so I don't know the shit this Gronk is.
You don't know who Gronk is?
I didn't follow football.
I know who Gronk is, and I'm not impressed by him.
Well,
I know a lot of people are, but
I did watch John Elway win the Super Bowl twice. That was great.
You know who I'm not impressed with there, Scott? 28-3.
Oh, yeah. Don't get me started. Oh, my God. Horrible. I thought that was
one of the greatest
very
nights of my
happy man.
life. One of the
we
greatest
haven't
nights of my life.
sniffed it since.
It's like I sometimes go back and watch those reaction videos of just everybody. It literally is watching like a movie of just like where everybody's happy, and it's just like that for like 2.5 hours. Then the last half hour of the movie, all of a sudden, everything just goes completely the other way. Like you're up like $2 million, and then within a 25 to 30 minute period, you just start slowly losing every single penny. Like it's a bad gambling run. That's what I consider that Super Bowl. It's a bad gambling run.
It's kind of like when
Because you start off hot.
Almost like it was booked that way.
Yeah. How about that?
On that note, I'd like to thank Scott for once again coming on to the program again. You need to come back as always, Scott.
Stay win. You know where to find me.
Oh, yeah,
Absolutely. We'll set it. We'll book it.
I'll send you a text later about what month you like.
Okay, that's cool.
So glad to have you back on, and we will definitely have you back on to talk about.
I always look forward to this.
I always do too. It's such a goddamn blast, and it's so great. Also being able to be like, yeah, Scott Hudson thinks I'm funny and cool. So great. Like, how did this happen?
It's a blast to be with you guys. I mean, the only thing in wrestling I do anymore is be on your show. So I appreciate
so honored
you doing
for that. So honored for that.
Felt that in the heart.
That actually, I'm like, that hit me right there in the feels. I'm like, oh, the only thing that he does, I'm like, it's us.
This is it.
This is meaningful. This is so meaningful. Well, thank you again for joining us, Scott. I hope you have a great night. Yeah, and we're definitely gonna have you back on soon.
All right. Thanks, man.
All right. Thanks again, Scott.
All right. Thanks, guys.
See you next time.
Have a good one.
All right, you too.